sport fans watching around the world. This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's get straight into the episode.
Yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stun.
Alright y'all, today's a Monday and Mondays are for Docs. Thank you for clicking or tapping and let's start today's spew. And to my guests, I'd like to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honoured and warm welcome for the second time entering to the Doxcast studio. You know who it is, you've read the title. He's been all over your social medias, dominating the field of Ju-Jitsu. He offers online courses, coaching, classes, podcasting, motivation, inspiration, education, entertainment. He offers so much and a lot more than that. And I'm very honoured to be welcoming to the podcast Joshua Saunders.
You've done me too much of a service. I call people idiots on the internet and run some ads.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. The upgrade is lovely.
Thank you.
This is great. I remember it was upstairs last time.
Yeah.
And not that it wasn't great last time, but this is fantastic. It's good to see that it's going in leaps and bounds and making progress. So
yeah, thank you.
It's cool. It's a testament to the effort that goes into it, and it's good to see.
Yeah, appreciate that, dude. I was happy with upstairs in the beginning, don't get me wrong. It's just I knew that it was just to get it started. And I'm still considering these to be those practice hours, you know what I mean? And still just providing shit for the boys, just my mates to be listening to. Appreciate every single one of them for every listen that they do. But it's still that practice area, and now it's starting to slowly get better and better and better.
You realise, though, you'll never get out of that,
Okay.
ever. And I think you might be like me in this aspect where I'm always chasing perfection. But that is kind of synonymous with the unattainable. You can't actually ever get there. You can approximate it. And fuck me, I keep forgetting the mathematical principle that this was. A mate of mine, Ben, at Ju-Jitsu, told me about it. It starts with an A, but I forget it. It's a mathematical concept that you can always approximate, but you can never actually touch.
Okay.
You can always get closer and closer and closer. It's like a spiral, and every time the spiral gets closer, it'll never actually touch, ever. And it's based on irrational numbers. I'm pretty sure pi is one of them. There's a page on TikTok that does mathematical graphs played out, and then they show you like the spiraling of it all going around.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually fascinating to watch. Because pi is an irrational number, it'll never quite link up perfectly with the circle. It'll always miss.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the human condition, that we're constantly in the chase of that. But that's what is exciting. Because if you aimed at perfection and you attained it, now what?
Yeah, I know. That's
Now what?
the big question, bro.
If you don't plug this fucking camera in the right time and you film a whole episode and you go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's opened you up to a new window of opportunity on how you can do something better.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what you should be seeking. People that go, oh, well, I don't want to fuck it up. Why? Well, because you're scared someone's going to call you names.
Yeah.
They're going to call you names anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I think we talked about that on our first episode, actually, about the fact that like you only do get better from learning your mistakes.
Pretty much. And don't get me wrong, winning's great. I fucking love winning.
Clearly,
do it all the time.
Yeah.
But someone's going to get mad at that. But you learn the most from your losses. And I kind of explained this in my post when I said about last year. I went 45-0 last year. I didn't get a single point scored on me, not a single
Wow.
not a single offensive move where I was ever in danger at any one period of time. 88% submission rate. And it was a wonderful season. I treat them like seasons because Jiu-Jitsu is kind of weird that we don't really have seasons. But the only reason I had that and had the drive and the emotional hunger to pursue that is because of how shit I felt at my performance at the previous world titles.
Yeah.
And it gave me the shits. I'm like, I fucking hate this feeling. It's disgusting. I gave my best for what it was, and it's hard to contextualize where you are currently with your current perspective back there to say that, well, I could have done this, this, and this. Yeah, but you're saying that from a new lens. You're saying that from a new window of perspective. So it's kind of unfair to say that you didn't do your best because you now have become better, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you stayed the same, sure, you could say you could have done something different, but you're the same, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
But I look back on that, and it gave me enough pain and enough emotion to be able to drive forwards in such a ferocious way that it enabled me to catapult off the back of it. So if I had avoided that and I had done really well, well, then I probably would have coasted to a certain degree or rested on laurels. Or McGregor's got that great quote, and he goes, you rest on a loss, you're a loser, but you can rest on a win too. And then you can become complacent. And then you kind of prophetically have seen that happen with him, where he had that amazing rise, and then he kind of just went, pfft.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Tyson Fury against Klitschko. massive, massive, massive goal, gains 180 pounds or something, or he was like 400 pounds at one point. And you see it all the time. And I think the real lesson of that, the crux of it is that the chase is way more important than the result.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. My best mate, Luke Mount, we used to argue about the fact that there is no such thing as perfect. He would be on the side there is, and I was on the side there wasn't. And it doesn't matter, even if you want to take it to a form of trade, which we both had a trade, it doesn't matter how level something is. If you zoom in far enough, you can always get at that little bit more, like that pie graph you were talking about.
Yep.
So I think mathematically, the world might work the same way within our own minds. Don't get me wrong, that's pretty off topic, right? It's pretty deep. It's something that I want to circle back to later with a bit more of a spiritual energy kind of conversation, but I am interested in this whole jiu-jitsu
I hate that
journey.
topic.
You hate that topic?
If you've listened to any of my stuff, no, that's my favorite topic of all.
Okay, good.
Of all.
You took me there because I watched the Betar Project just before, maybe a couple of days ago.
Yeah, nice.
Shout out to the Betar Project. I think that was an awesome podcast. I'll definitely put a link in the description for
Nick's
both.
a great kid.
Yeah, it was awesome. He's actually going to come on hopefully soon onto the Doxcast.
Yeah,
and we
cool.
can talk some shit.
Cool.
Be good to get to know a bit of a content creator in that kind of field as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you definitely took me by surprise when you said, hate that subject. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't be taken seriously too much.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to my mate Damo as well, because he said that if we were discussing how many points got scored against you through this year, I had no idea. He's like, if it's less than 10, then I win. I said, honestly, I didn't even understand the point system. Right? Sounds like it's a pretty low number, so I'll go against you, but you said 0.
Well, it was, 0.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, it was 0.
That is crazy.
I kind of treat it the same way as training, and it's not that I don't allow myself to be scored on any training, it's just that I fight my best to instill a mindset that would be beneficial for competition, and getting scored on is not beneficial for competition. So the way you train is the way you compete, and the way you compete is the way you train, then there should be no separation and no difference. So that's basically just, it's not that I didn't get scored on in comp, it's that I refuse to be scored on in training, and then I apply that to competition. Because I don't see competing as anything different than training. I see training as the building of the skill set, and competing as the expression of the skill set. So really, it's not different. It's just the showcasing of what you've been building.
Yeah, that's a mad way to put that, because
That's all it
everyone
is.
knows how you train is how you perform. You know what I mean? If you give
Yeah.
it 60% in training, where's that extra 40% coming from? You haven't built that muscle memory in order to express it. So yeah, I like that. And I like that you said that when we're talking about the losses and stuff and the lessons you learn from doing so, that's kind of what take the L means in my head. Take the L is just take the lesson. There is no such thing as a loss. It's a mistake, but man, everything that I've made a mistake through doing the podcast, I haven't turned the cameras on. Let's make a note about that. And then I got to pre-check for next time. But as you said, catapult, which was a great word to say it. I'm already making a list. Let's make a bunch of other things that I should do before the podcast starts, just to get the conversation going, get ready, things like that. So great word to use, catapult.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that leads you to developing is a really good system, and systems breed results. Like when you're at a company and you're trying to employ somebody and you want them to do the exact task that you want them to do, you don't just throw them into the desk and say, have at it. You say, we have a system for this. If somebody says this, you do this. If someone says this, you do this. If someone comes to you with this, you do this. And you write it all down, you document it, and then you show that to them on day one, and then they automatically know how to do the job.
Yep.
Why don't you just internalize that as you're the boss and the employee, create yourself a system, and then stick to that system? Because you're only, you don't fall to your, what's the quote? You don't fall to your preparation, you fall to your standards. So you can only come down to where your standards are. And if your standards are, I uphold all my systems, well, then you never lose, ever. And then it depends on how you define winning and losing. I don't define winning and losing as good and bad. It's just an outcome of my effort. But if I gave my best and I lost, I don't give a fuck. If I win and I didn't try my hardest, I fucking care more than I lost.
Wow.
That's the difference.
That's a good standard, dude.
And that's my standard. That's where I hold myself at. And so I had a couple matches during the year where I didn't submit the guy, and I probably should have. I'm fucking more filthy at that than if I've ever lost. Wow. Way more filthy. Wow. We still go over this move. It's called an opposite triangle or trimora or whatever it is. It's not going to mean anything to anyone watching, but it's a move in jiu-jitsu. And every time we fucking have to learn it, I get the shits because I had a guy in a position in that spot and I didn't fucking break his arm. And it haunts me, and it's the worst. Especially because that guy was a huge cunt after the match. But I just sit there and I think I fucking should have done that. And it burns every single time we learn the move.
So what stopped you from doing that in that position? Was it you holding back from breaking his arm?
No, absolutely not. I undid my legs and I shouldn't have.
Okay.
I undid my legs and I didn't put pressure over the far shoulder so that his arm would have been in a better position for me to turn the corner. And it didn't happen. And as soon as the match finished, I knew exactly what I did, which fucking annoyed me more because it wasn't like I didn't have the information. It's I didn't use the information in the heat of battle. Yeah. And it pissed me off a lot because I say this all the time, is training is like competing, and I wouldn't have let that happen in training.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's still, this was like in March last year. And I'm still angry over it.
Almost 12 months.
I'm still filthy.
But that's good, dude. That's drive. You're not going to make that mistake, hopefully, again.
Never again. Never again. You have to have both, right? This is a really good analogy. Everybody that thinks that spirituality is gay and they just want to make money is a fucking retard. But then everybody who just wants to make, and then the opposite, everyone who just wants to be spiritual and not make money, that's fucking stupid too.
Yeah.
You have to have a combination of both, right? There has to be some meaning. And that is the same for emotion and logic. And guys want to say, oh, well, fuck, if I just do the logical thing, then I'll get better results. Like, no, you won't, because you won't have that emotional impact and drive in the back of it. So when it does get mundane or boring or annoying or frustrating, you'll give up because you don't have that emotional backing forcing you to do it. Because you are either running away from a feeling you don't want to feel anymore or pursuing a feeling that you know you do want to feel. I'm not saying you should avoid your feelings, but you have to have an emotional component of why you're actually driving yourself to do those things. Those people get the best results. There's a really good book that everybody should read. It's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. Just come out.
Oh, I can't wait to read that.
Unbelievable read.
That's my next 2 books from now.
And he talks about like Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, all these greats of sport. And he always uses the concept of choose your enemies wisely so that you can aim at something that will give you the emotional drive when the going gets tough. And Tom Brady, when he first started, was the 198 other players that were drafted before him. That was his emotional drive. He wanted to prove each and every single one of those wrong. Then he realized it was too broad, so he actually had to go to the quarterbacks that were drafted before him. There were 6 of them before him. And he goes, well, they picked those 6 people ahead of me. All right. Game on. I'm going to fucking beat every single one of you. I'm going to be more successful than each and every single one of you. And then in 10 years, he passed all of them.
Yeah.
Then he was buffering upon the greats. So like Peyton Manning and all those other guys in the NFL. He had 3 Super Bowls already. And he's like, it's not good enough. My next enemy is the people who have been the best of all time. So because you've already surpassed those 6 people, they're no longer they're in the rearview mirror. Don't think about them anymore. You have to recreate that emotional drive. Then the interesting part was there was a 9-year stretch in his career where he kind of didn't do anything, up and down and up and down. And sometimes they'd get to a winning position and then they'd lose. And Bet-David was asking them in the interview that he had him on. And he's like, what do you think that was? He goes, I just didn't have that emotional force behind me. I didn't have that real, not in a sense of hate or anything like that, but I didn't have that charge in essence. And like, fuck, that's so interesting. So when I quit rugby league, I really didn't have that either. I had no common goal against of which I had like an emotional attachment to. And it was this listlessness that people sort of settle into. And I can see how that permeates through most of society where they kind of go, all right, well, I've got school. That's easy. I've got a drive to finish school. I've got to finish it. And then whether I go to uni or not, and then I get an apprenticeship and then I get to a certain level in that, then I become a tradesman or whatever. I go to uni, graduate. Then as soon as you get into the job, you're like, okay, well, there's goals here and then I can progress. But then you kind of hit this like window where there's not as much emotional drive. Like there's logic to do well in your job. But the people who have the emotional drive are the ones who go, no, fuck that, I deserve more. I deserve more because of my history where I was impoverished. I grew up in a shitty environment. People said that I couldn't do it. It doesn't matter what your specific driver is. But you had a driver that said people in your personal circle when you were very young, you can't do that. You either wilt underneath that and you allow it to be true, or you go, fuck you. Yeah. I'm going to show you the opposite. And that's that like emotional internal fire that starts to drive you. And that it doesn't surpass the logical side of things. You have to have systems and logic on this side and emotions on this side, but you allow it to be the fuel that is squirted onto the fire of the logic.
Yeah.
Then it starts to go. Then you start to really realize some fucking crazy achievements. Because if you're all over here and no emotion, well, then you're just robotic. You're just doing things because you need to do them. And if you're all over here and no systems, you're really motivated, but it's not backed by anything. I used to be that guy. I used to watch motivational tapes all the fucking time. And then I had nothing over this side. Or I'd do the morning routine. I had the craziest morning routine. I wake up and fucking meditate for like 45 minutes, do cold showers, do all the dumb shit. Not that morning routines are bad. They're kind of gay, but they're not bad. But if you don't allow it to get your work done faster or get your work done better, then it doesn't really matter. It's kind of going backwards. You could have just, instead of starting at 11 a.m. and waking up at 8 and doing a big 3-hour morning routine, you could have just got straight into it. And then
It's there to add addition to
exactly.
your,
But you have to have this nice even balance of both. And it's this emotional side, the logic side. It's who are you fighting against and what are you fighting them with? And it's a very interesting concept, and it breeds a lot of successful people. You look back at it and you're like, oh, this guy was terribly motivated by emotion, but then how did he transmute that into usable tasks and actions? And then he went like this. And you'll see it. People will be one-sided. They'll be like disgruntled with the world and heavily emotional, and they won't have any logic and systems and anything, and they'll just stay for like 2 years. Then they finally realize that they have to have some systems and stuff behind it. Then they just go, poof.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, it's an overnight success. It was not. They just figured out the two halves need to be there, and then they just...
Well, it's funny that the logical thing to do is to decipher your emotions and use them as a guidance system as to where your life needs to change. You know, it's not really like you have two sides of the coin that people suffer between. That is the logical thing to do, to act on your emotions accordingly to how your life will best suit. And I'm very excited to read that book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, because
Very good.
I'm curious as to, and you've read it, so you might be able to help me out without spoiling too much of the good book away, but at work, my main priority is to always find someone better than me and then give myself the task to become better than that person, because I have set myself a rule. I will be the best refrigeration tradesman by the time I retire. And I want to retire in the next 5 years, so I'm fucking trying pretty fucking hard. But the people that I keep meeting, they're such good mentors and guiders and shit. And I let them know my plan. I'm going to be better than you. I'm just letting you know that. And they always laugh, and we have a bit of a back and forth. Like, that healthy competition starts to breed between us. And not saying I'm anywhere near even as good as these senior techs yet, but I will be. So does choosing an enemy wisely, in your opinion, have to do with someone that you don't like a normal enemy is, or is it just for the competition-based pursuit?
Yeah, it's not at all like a malicious intent.
Okay.
There are a couple of types. The way that I sort of broke it down is they're like people that praise you and they say you can do it, and then there's people that say you can't do it, and then there's people who are ahead of you, and they have to be ahead of you enough that it's not unmotivating.
Yeah.
So they're not too far ahead, but they have to be ahead of you enough that it is still motivating. So you have to pick people in your circle, or people that you know, or maybe people that you don't even know. Maybe you don't even know them on a face-to-face basis. Maybe it could be some fucking friggy tech in Northern Territory that's killing it. I don't know if there is one, but maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Northern Territory, probably not.
Yeah.
But there could be some guy that you don't even know, let's say in like the podcast space or something like that, and you're looking at them and you're like, oh, well, they've done that. That's enough of a motivational drive to be able to try and take them out. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to fucking kill them.
Yeah.
But it's, why do they have what they have, and why do they have it, and why don't I have it? And it sort of becomes this measuring tool of like, well, why do they deserve it and I don't? And you just run down that question inside your own head. You're like, well, there's no difference. They've just been doing it longer than I have, probably at a better rate that I have, for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
That's all it is. They've either been doing it longer or better. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, if that's really the only thing, well, then why don't I just continue on my current trajectory, use them as like a motivational pin at the front, and then follow in their footsteps and try and learn, because they're already ahead of you, which means they've done things that you can learn from and leverage that in your own skill set. So if they are content producers or something, it's particularly helpful because they can start to say, well, I did this mistake. Here's so you don't make it. Like here's the post so you don't make it. And I try to do it. I try and do that a lot with my stuff now as well. I don't remember who said it, but they were saying you should be making your content for the person that you were 5 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, so that it is authenticated, because no one can say that you didn't go through what you went through. No one can argue with you on that. And it also is extremely beneficial and helpful because you have become the person that has eclipsed those problems that you went through.
And then it's relatable too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then you get a storyline of, oh, this guy was down here and now he's up here in whatever field that it may be, that relative perspective. And then you go, oh, he's actually teaching us how to do it. So my aim specifically in whatever I do is to allow for people to do it much faster than I did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Why not? Because if it works, then they will be able to do it because they'll be getting the information even earlier than I got it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I could legitimately take a day one white belt all the way to where I am skill-wise and technique-wise. If they applied themselves the same way that I did from the very beginning, they would beat me. They would beat me. They would get there faster because I didn't have it at the start. I had to find it. But the best part about that, and the reason why there's actually another interesting concept, if you're ever going to run a business, it has to be morally and ethically clean, and it has to be a driver and a purpose and an emotive thing. Like the enemy that I choose for my business is scummy business owners, money grabbers, and poor ethics and poor practices. So like that's the enemy that I'm fighting against. And so there's a fucking million businesses that are like that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be one of them. So I'm going to fight an active competition against that. So people even say like, "Oh, I thought your thing would be like a bit of a scam because there's like marketing language and whatever." And then they go, "It's actually legit, and you deliver everything you promise."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah. What the fuck else would I be doing?"
Yeah.
Like, how do you think I got this far if I wasn't doing that? Because it would all unravel and fucking turn into shit anyway. But yeah, that's how you choose an enemy that's not necessarily specific. That might guide you in the correct direction for a little while, or it will give you a directional bias. And then I think in your specific example, it's good to choose direct people that you have contact with because you can see the way they operate. And then you go, oh, okay, so they do that. Why?
Yeah.
And then you've got a whole set of heuristics. You can even ask them. Just say, why do you do it this way instead of that way? I noticed because we got taught that at TAFE or blah, 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 blah. Or this guy does it differently. And he goes, oh, well, I used to do it that way, but that caused me problems down the chain that I didn't want to deal with anymore. So now I do it this way so I can alleviate those problems. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't want those problems either. I'm going to do it your way. And then it's just the cumulative experience of gaining all those little tidbits and knowledge. That's why I don't get people that go, oh, I just go home and watch Netflix. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
What are you talking about? There's so many different ways that you could excel at the thing that you choose to excel at. And there's so many different ways you can use your mind to your advantage and think about all the different ways that things can be put together and problem solve. And maybe it's the autism, sure.
As long as it's not in your bio, dude, it's all right to say.
Yeah, exactly. As long as I don't know the fucking her, him, or whatever the rainbow flag.
Yeah, it's become a trend, dude. Autism in the bio. It's been crazy lately.
I don't think I have to announce it. I think people just have to listen to me for 10 minutes. Yeah. But I think the majority reason I've become so good at what I do in any given field is that I just love pulling things apart and seeing how they work and trying it and experimenting and doing it this way and what happens if I do it this way versus if I do it this way and what's the better outcome and what outcome am I actually searching for, and if it is that outcome, how do I reverse engineer that process and go back into it and make that make sense, and maybe this works in this context but it doesn't work in this context. Why is that? I think too long didn't read, natural inquisition and curiosity. I think that's the biggest driver, and then having the person that's ahead of you be that the fulfillment of that. You're curious as to why they're ahead of you because there's a reason. It's not that there's no luck, there's no accident, there's no coincidences. Why are they ahead of you? Well, if it's not those three things, then they probably have a better system or a better way of doing things, or they're more inquisitive in this area, or they've figured out a system that works for them, or they've done it for a longer period of time where they gain that experience. Usually it's a couple of things.
Yeah.
And if you can
learn
learn
that. A
that.
dream, a passion, a pursuit, a dedication. It could be a consistency. There's anything, dude, yeah. Better
Exactly.
work ethic is the one thing I struggle with. Most people have a better work ethic.
Yeah. You definitely have to you definitely have to work hard, and you have to work hard to be able to earn your right to work smart, because there's no cheat code. There's no way around it. You can't have the context for your smart work before pushing shit uphill. The old story of Sisyphus, the pushing up the stone up the hill, only for it to return back every single day, and he'd have to start all over again. But he ends up loving it. He ends up loving it, and it's that process that he ends up really enjoying, because that's life.
Yeah.
Pushing shit uphill is life. And I don't necessarily agree with people that like life is suffering, because I think you get to choose that. And I don't think pushing shit uphill for something you love is suffering at all.
I'm going to have to put a pause in that, but there's a couple pins I do want to circle back to that you did make me curious about. But I think life is suffering, but you choose your suffering. You know, I think no matter what, you'll suffer. You'll either suffer now in order to reap the fruits of your rewards later, or you just chill out now and suffer the consequences of not making a good impact later on.
So short-term pain, long-term gain. And then the opposite of that. Short-term gain, long-term pain. You could define pain as being something that you want to avoid, but it doesn't have to be suffering.
Okay, good
That's
point.
my context of it. Because what is suffering? What's the definition?
If I was to make my own definition, I would say not enjoying the position you're in.
Yeah, I would say something similar, like enduring something you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like really, like it's just that's why people call it the existential suffering. It's like, oh, fuck, I have to go through life.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't. You don't have to go through it.
Yeah.
Go and eat fucking 50 Panadol. Don't go and do that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. Nobody is driving you to be a success in any realm of endeavor that you want to. No one makes you get out of bed in the morning. No one is coming in your bed. I used to say this to personal training clients all the time. And they would say, well, I have to go to the gym because it makes you healthy. And I'm like, well, do you have to? Is anybody breaking into your house with a balaclava and a gun in your face saying, go to the gym? Would be a great service because you wouldn't be fat anymore. But
Yeah.
no one's making you do it. You get to.
Yeah.
It's a choice. And suffering, by my definition, is something you don't get to choose to do. It's laid upon you. It's kind of akin to like a victim-mindedness. That's how I see it. Well, I have to suffer through this. No, you don't. You get to, which means it's not bad. Which means you don't define it with a negative term because it's not bad. It's the same way that people define selfish. They always define it negatively. But if you are using the term like the colloquial, if you give from an empty cup, then it's not worth much. Selfishness is I'm showing up as my best version of myself and making sure I get all the things done that I need to do so that I can impact everybody around me in a positive way. So therefore it's not bad.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the definition of terms matters. So I don't really define it as suffering at all, because I wake up and I do every single thing I want to do all the time, and I never do anything I don't want to do. So therefore, how could I be suffering? I can't.
Yeah.
I absolutely cannot be. I still work my fucking ass off. I still do things I don't want to, in a sense of like, I do things. No, I'm going to go back on that. I don't do things I don't want to. I still do difficult things, but I don't do things I do not want to. That doesn't mean that all my life is easy and I just sit there and fucking eat Krispy Kremes and do nothing, because I would argue that nobody really wants to do that. They're just subject to their emotions they haven't dealt with. But I continually move the needle forwards, even if it is difficult. And it doesn't matter what area of my life that is, whether it's doing something like this or jiu-jitsu or business or relationships or anything like that. Even a difficult conversation is not something I don't want to do at all.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So it kind of redefines the terms. And I don't think I don't think Sisyphus was sitting to himself thinking, I'm suffering through this. Eventually he got to a stage where he was like, no, this is hectic. I fucking get to push the boulder up the hill. Yeah. And I don't give a fuck that it goes back down the day after, because the progress is the thing that he was building was not the result of getting the boulder up the hill. The thing that he was building was himself. Yeah. So no matter what I go through, whether it sucks or it doesn't, I'm getting better. Whether I get the shiny object or I don't get the shiny object, I get better. So if I'm always getting better, how am I suffering?
I do understand. I do relate in a way where I have always told myself and others that I do what I want whenever I want to do it. you know, I just have a pretty good understanding in why I do it, and it's to make myself better. You know, it might be a mundane task, it might be something that isn't necessarily fun, but I still want to do that because I get where I want to get to later. In terms of suffering, though, I think that what people I guess we could say translate the word to, is that you do have to deal with certain circumstances now. If you don't, you'll have to deal with certain circumstances later that result because you didn't do the following. And that's where people say suffer. They suffer with the task, so they don't suffer with the emotions or the circumstances they're in. Like people say, I have to go to work every day. They feel like they're suffering, but it's so they later on don't find themselves in a position where they're suffering because they don't have enough money. You know what I mean? I have to suffer and not go out and save my money, so I don't have to suffer when I have kids and I haven't got the position in order to provide them what they want.
But I wouldn't define that as suffering. I wouldn't define not going out as suffering. I would define it as making the correct choice. Because I think I would, so let's play with the definition for a little bit. I would define suffering as telling yourself that you want to be better and then doing the opposite. So you say you want it, and then you don't do it, and you don't follow up your actions with your words. I would define that as suffering. Maybe that's why I don't see it that way, because I don't. The thing I try the hardest to do, and the thing I try not to fault on ever, is if I say I'm going to do something, I fucking do it. And that's it. And Dostoevsky has a point where he says, never lie to yourself. Because as soon as you lie to yourself, you don't know how to trust your own word. And if you can't trust your own word, how do you trust anybody else? Then you're completely alone. You live in this nihilistic doom trap of fucking nothingness. Because if you say, I'm going to go get a drink now, then how do you know? Because you've lied to yourself so many times, you can't even trust your own word. And if that's a small, benign task, how do you do it on the higher order tasks that really matter?
Yeah.
How can you know? You can't, because you can't trust yourself. So I think in a sense that if you said you were going to do it and then you didn't do it, you would suffer under the weight of your lying to yourself, of your mistrust to yourself, your misappropriation of that. Because if you set the long-term goal to retire by 55 and that meant that you had to not go out on the weekends and save money and do all that sort of stuff, well, then you're actively pursuing something that you define meaningful. And I would not define that as suffering.
Yeah, it's a great point. I can't argue with that because it's how you define words that make each individual person who they are. It's like, for example, Andrew Tate, which I have to give a shout out to Andrew Tate. People say they don't like him. I love him. I love everything he produces and puts out there.
People don't like him because they remind them of what they could be.
Yeah.
Random people on the internet hate me for no reason. I've never said anything to them. I've never had a conversation with them. Like, I fucking hate that guy. Yeah. And that's my retort every time. I'm like, you hate me because I remind you of the things you gave up on. Yeah, and I'm not doing it.
That's cold.
I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
And you hate it because you know you could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I was just going to say that he kind of does the same thing with depression, in a way where he's saying, yes, there's a word for it, but you can't be depressed. And it's not saying that no one can't define themselves as depressed, but he will refuse to live in a world where depression is something that he can possibly enter himself into. He can't be depressed.
That's kind of similar theory that I went with, is that I can be in pain or I can be enduring something, but I do not have to label it suffering.
Yeah.
Because it's a very sticky word.
Yeah.
It's very sticky. It's kind of like how the West has a stickiness to God being fucking shambles or whatever, or they just see it as something that's not to be touched because it's a very dense word. And we've made it mean so many different things. And he does a really good job at segregating that with depression. You're allowed to be sad and not depressed. You're allowed to be hungry and not eat. You're allowed to be horny and not go watch Pornhub. You're allowed to separate these things. And I think it's very important that you do, because otherwise you'll be completely subjugated underneath the emotions of the time. And if you are only acting for what you want now, then to your point, you'll produce suffering.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's an easy relation to see, and I'm noticing a lot with high achievers. They're making their own definitions for words because it helps guide them through their own journey. It's pretty cool to see. One point that I pinned in before when we were talking about running your classes and training someone up to be better than you, it's the same kind of thing we do in our trade, just to talk about patterns like I mentioned at the beginning, where every apprentice I interact with, I let them know, you will be better than me. There's nothing I can do to stop it. With the way technology evolves and with me passing on everything I've experienced and you gaining that in such a short period of time, I won't be able to stop you from becoming better than me. But it's my goal to make sure you don't. If you can continue the same mindset, there's nothing I can do to stop it. And then it's the same thing that I'm just trying to apply to others. So by teaching, one thing that I'm learning is it's such a fulfilling thing to do because for starters, as everyone knows, the more you learn, the more you earn. But the more you teach, the more you reach for more information. So I'm wondering if you also experience the same thing. The more you're trying to help others and teach and provide things for people to learn off, are you gaining from doing so yourself?
I find it as an incredibly fulfilling task because what's the point of me having all the fun for myself? It doesn't make any sense to me. I live a pretty fucking excellent life. And that's been purpose-built and very deliberate and designed by me. And God, whatever you want to call it. I'll use a non-sticky word, universe, whatever. That's sticky as well. Fucking cunts want to whinge about that too. They're, oh, you go to Bondi and do yoga classes. What if I do? Fuck off. I don't. But what's the point? And this is kind of like something you come up against in the online learning space as well. Everybody thinks that courses on the internet are just automatically a scam, and that if you were doing it, then why would you be teaching people how to do it? And they forget the philanthropic element of it, that I want to see cunts do well. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's the complete diametric opposite to, well, I can only do well if you do shit. I fucking hate that mentality.
Yeah.
It's yuck. It's disgusting. And to go back to these like pussies on the internet, they only feel good if someone else around them isn't doing good in relation to that. How sickening of a worldview is that?
It's poison. Dude.
That doesn't make any fucking sense to me, that you could only shine if somebody is in the shade. Like you can only enjoy the sun because someone doesn't have any access to the sun over there. Ew.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
How about you open it up so that everybody could experience it if they choose to, and everybody has the ability to work hard if they so choose to, and if they do it for long enough, they will get exactly what they want, regardless of what you do, because it doesn't impact you. Because my actions don't impact you whatsoever. I can drop down right now and do 1,000 push-ups and your chest doesn't hurt or won't get bigger or you won't get the results from that. So if my actions have no impact on you whatsoever, well then why the fuck would I care if you're doing well only so that it makes me feel insecure and it bruises my ego because I'm not doing as well as you?
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's fucking gross. It's disgusting. So to go back to the teaching element, that's the direct opposition. That's the emotional driver for the teaching stuff, is that I want people to, at least in some part or some aspect of their lives, experience what I have in a multitude of factors, like whether they go on to learn business or whether they go on to learn jiu-jitsu or whether they go on to, it doesn't matter. Like I post my stories every single day, not because I want people to learn jiu-jitsu faster. It's because I want them to change their perspective on how the world works so that they can actually use their brain to their advantage and not have their brain be their enemy. I had a message this morning from, it kind of gets convoluted because I don't run the clothing page that I have. Yeah. A mate of mine does that, and then people send him messages as if it's me because they don't know that it's not me. There's a really cool message. This guy goes, love the post of yours from a week or so about living up to the standard of yourself. I've been abusing weed for 4 years and quit on the 26th December because of this post. That quote/statement hit close to home because I've been resenting myself for a long time because I knew I wasn't living up to my full potential and stunting myself. People on the outside never knew how bad it was because I hid it, and only I knew, and it was so far from the standard I want to hold myself to. Just want you to know that your posts are reaching the whole way to Pittsburgh, PA, and making an impact, man.
Wow.
If you ever want to know why I fucking do what I do, it's that.
Yeah.
Because I used to be that kid. I used to be a fucking drug-soaked loser retard who was squandering their gifts. I was unbelievable at rugby league when I was on my day. Like, I know everybody says, like, oh, if I didn't get injured, I would have played in the NRL. No, I'm being fucking serious. I was in the NRL for a preseason, and had I not gone through a catastrophic injury, I would have had more, whatever. But I was going out and I was doing drugs when I was playing under 20s all the fucking time. And I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. I was that kid. Yeah. So I know what he's going through and I fucking get it. I get it probably better than he does because I've already lived through it and gone like 5 years ahead of where he is, because he's only just given up now. Congratulations to him. It's fucking awesome. And in terms of a teaching aspect, that's all you ever want. That's all you ever want. You want people who are heeding your message, like back in the day, fucking hear you. Yeah. I've been watching heaps of Vikings, so I'm thinking about like ancient shit at the moment. But that's what you want. You want people to be able to propagate the words that come out of your face into their head and make it make sense for them to be better people. That's all it is. And if that happens through the jiu-jitsu scene, great. If I can get somebody listening to my podcast because they love the way that I compete, fantastic. If I can get them listening, and vice versa. If I can get them doing jiu-jitsu because they listen to my podcast, they're like, oh, how does this guy think this way? Oh, it's because he does a sport. However they make up their own mind to do it is important. And I think that's the best way to look at it, because the universe is reciprocal. The more you give out, the more you get back. And for a long time, I was only giving out to get back. That's not how it works. You can't cheat the system. It'll look at you and go, haha, I know what you're doing. Not going to happen. But if you genuinely do it only for the reason that other people will gain from it, then you're going to get back 10 times much as you could have imagined. Yeah. And whatever that is to you, whether that's good feelings and all lovey fucking warm chests and whatever, but it's monetary or it's time or it's praise or adoration or approval or anything like that. That's the most important part. Like, I do my show only for the reason, and I've told this very explicitly, that I'm using it as a diary so that in 5 years I can look back on how I looked back on the earth at 5 years previous and then measure that against how I look at it now.
And do your podcast, for example, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And if you guys want to come along for the ride, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's a completely selfish endeavor, and I don't run ads on it. I plan to never run ads on it. I plan to never make money off it. I really don't give a fuck if it does well. I don't care if 600 people listen to it or 6,000 people listen to it. I don't give a fuck. But I just put it out there twice a week, every week, without. I don't want anything back from it. I don't want anything. And I get all these messages like this guy. Yeah. I get all this shit that comes back from it. And then I was sitting in traffic in Blacktown going to training, and a guy pulls up next to me and he rolls down the window and he looks at me like this. And I'm like, he wants to talk to me. So I put my window down and he shows me on his phone from his dock my face with my podcast. He goes, bro, I'm listening to your show.
That's dope.
And I just sat there and I was just absolutely befuddled. And I'm like, holy fuck, how cool is that? Wow. I have no idea who that cunt is. No idea. And he's probably getting something from the words that I say. And the only reason I say them is because I have found them useful. And that means if he finds them useful, then it was worth it. And that's all I need from that. So like a long-winded answer to the teaching thing, I think we're all teaching. I think we're all teaching in terms of our leading by example through our actions of what we do every single day. I think we're teaching by the things that we speak and the standards that we uphold ourselves to. And I think we teach in a sense of what we deem important and how we allow that to permeate through everything. So it's the best ever.
Great answer, dude. Great answer. It's hard for me to go back and pin all the little pins I put in there because you just leave so many gems along the way. The one that stood out to me the most was one that I related with, which was being a younger delinquent is the closest word I can use to find it in terms of drugs and going out and doing the wrong thing. Anyway, how's your mindset stand on that today? I know a lot of people do smoke weed before they engage in jiu-jitsu. Is it something that you've ever at least tried or do? Or
they're not serious.
They're not serious?
They don't have to be. I'll caveat that.
Yep.
Also, if Liquid Death want to sponsor me.
Yeah.
There's so many ways I can chop this one. I don't. It depends on what you want. And again, we go back to this conversation of suffering where if you say you want something and you act in an opposition to that, then you don't really want it and you're prepared to suffer through the mental masturbation of saying you want it and not getting it. That's what that is. So if you want to be the best in the world, you've got to be pretty violent with the things you allow and the things you don't allow. And that can't be one of them. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. It doesn't matter. If you want to rock up and train with your mates and just have fun, have a bit of cardio, have a social environment, wrist lock white belts, because that's always fun.
Yeah.
Sure, by all means, go for it. But just make sure it's in line with what you say. If you're going out on a weekend and spending all morning doing drugs and fucking smoking weed and doing all that sort of stuff, and you say you want to be the next Michael Jordan, you're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot. Stop it. At least stop telling yourself you want to be, because you don't, because your actions and your words are not aligned. If you say you want to be a millionaire and you don't run a business, shut the fuck up. You don't want it that bad, because how many jobs on earth pay you $1 million a year?
There could be a handful, man.
Very, 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 very few.
Yeah.
And the ones that do are revolving chairs of people who are in high places who know people. And this is just an overgeneralization. Yes, there are salaries of $1 million or more. Usually it's top level athletes, or it's people,
SEOs,
CEOs, COOs, CFOs, those sorts of guys. So unless you're climbing the corporate ladder, which you might not be, or unless you're running a business, stop telling yourself you want to be one, because you obviously don't want it that bad, because your actions haven't followed up with your word. If you want to be a professional athlete, you've got to go to bed at a certain time and get a certain amount of sleep. You've got to eat a certain amount of food, a certain amount of quality food. You've got to train a certain amount of times in a day. You can't be the professional that doesn't train. You can't be the professional that's not obsessed. I've never met anybody who's the best at what they do, they're not obsessed. So unless you're obsessed about it, stop telling yourself you want to be the best, because you probably don't want to be that bad. And that's okay. All of this is all right. You don't have to want to be the best to be good at what you do. That's fine. Some people are more than happy just cutting up big bits of wood and small bits of wood and making houses. They're fucking stoked with that. Good on them. I don't want to trade places, but good on them. That's fine. And you don't have to. This is one of the biggest detriments of like social media, is that there's this toxic culture of always wanting more, and it's just because. Think about 20 years ago, before social media existed and all that sort of stuff. You saw like a shit hot car. You know, fuck yeah, that's mad. And you just see it once, but then you let it like stick in your memory, and you never see it again, but you allow it to motivate you a little bit. You're like, this is fucking cool. Like, I want to go get that. Fast forward to today, you're bombarded with it every third post, like Lamborghini, Ferrari, Pagani, fucking shit you could never afford, Bugatti, all this sort of shit. And then you achieve the nice car that you wanted in both examples. In the previous example, you think, fuck yeah, this is sick. Like I attained something that I was looking forward to, and I put in the hard work, and I'm never going to see that other car again, but now I get to see it every single day. I get to be proud of this. Like, this is a cool achievement. And then the next one, you're constantly bombarded by better, that it doesn't even land the same anymore. You've got this car, but someone always has 3. Someone always has 10. Someone always has 50. You're just in this comparative nature. And it's just, it's gross, because you think you have to want that. You think that's expected of you. You think that you must want that because that's what other people want. No.
Yeah.
Just want whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
do a proper analysis of your life and think about what you actually want. Some people don't want to drive Ferraris. Cool. I fucking do. I'm going to.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. Some people don't want to go to the gym. Cool. I do. I'm going to. You don't have to. That's fine. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's just because it doesn't make sense to me doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to you. Someone could listen to this and every single thing that's come out of my mouth sounds like utter fucking bullshit. Okay, fine. Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. I just think that people get so carried away. They're like, oh, well, if this guy wants to be the best, then I have to want to be the best. You don't. It's completely fine. Just make sure that if you do, your words and your actions are completely aligned. Because then you're just torturing yourself. Why would you torture yourself like that when you say, I want to be the best, I want to be the best, I want to be the best. And then you go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, and then you have to recover from that debt that you've incurred, and then you're not training the same, you're not as sharp, you're not as quick-witted, you're not as nimble, or your muscles aren't as recovered, and any of those things. And you're just like, fuck, now you live in this stage of regret. And then you go into this debt of not being where you want to be and knowing that it's your fault. but then you blame something else. And then this is a horrible, horrible cycle of like a victimhood mentality. And then you always compensate for the fact that you're not moving forwards by hedonic, like dopaminergic things to re-up that feeling that you would otherwise be getting from the hard work. Like, I don't need any of that stuff anymore because I gained so much satisfaction from the teaching and the training and all that sort of stuff. You could supplement it. Yeah. It's just fucking difficult. It's easy to go smoke a bong. It doesn't take any effort. Some people think it might. Some real like fat stoner company like, oh, got to get up.
Yeah, to pull it in one hit.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that because it's automatically accessible and it takes no effort. What does take effort is creating a reward system for yourself of hard work and doing that long enough that you start to see rewards from it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So do you think people are confused in the fact that, because I do hear about it a lot online when it comes to smoking and training, like they go hand in hand, not just jiu-jitsu. People say it helps them in the gym. People say it helps them in there. I do kind of understand it if it comes from a creative pursuit. Sometimes, like, especially you hear a lot of stand-up comedians and writers, they do use things to alter their chemicals in their brain, you know, the compounds in their brain through chemicals. I think that I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I kind of get it. Do you think that people are just confused, or do you think they're wrong, they're right?
I will take it away from the weed conversation altogether and just say, if you think that you need anything outside of yourself to do what you need to do, you're wrong.
Well, yeah, I like that.
You do not need anything outside of you. You do not need external validation from somebody telling you good boy and patting you on the head and saying proud of you. You don't need it. You do not need it. You don't need caffeine. It's good. I fucking like it. Yeah. I'm caffeinated every day.
Yeah.
I don't need it. There's a very select few things that you require. Obviously, you need water to live. Obviously, you need food. Obviously, you need sleep and other bits and pieces. But the thing that you tell yourself that you need to do the task that you must is a crutch. That's all it is.
Okay, so you think it's a negative thing to use that kind of stuff?
You've just reasoned with yourself the fact that you need it for you to progress, because there are, let's take an argument for a second. There's 50 people on this side and 50 people on this side. Some of them never touched it. Some of them have touched it. They're all successful. There are millions of businesses that run every single day. Very few of them have the identical method.
Yeah, it's just another way of getting to it.
Just there's so many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
So many ways. And if you tell yourself that you need it, well, then you need it. If you tell yourself you don't need it, well, then you don't need it. But it has nothing to do with anything outside of you.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that. It's all internal. The Hermetic principle number one, law of Hermeticism, is that the all is mental. Every single thing in this known universe is a mental projection. Because whether we like it or not, like you and I could look at that wall and agree that is a shade of grey. But we will never actually agree on the exact specification of that colour, because the rods and cones in your eyes are different to the rods and cones in my eyes. So we could agree that it's grey, but we do not see the same wall. It's your perspective versus my perspective, which means we'll probably never see exactly eye to eye on anything whatsoever. And that means that your unique perspective of the world, your unique perspective of the universe is your own. And it can't be augmented by anybody but you.
I couldn't agree with that anymore.
So to say that something outside of you is necessary for that, if the universe is all mental, is wrong. Incorrect. You've got all the hardware that you need and all the software that you need inside. Like if you really wanted to know the answer to a deep question of the decision of what you should do, go and fucking sit on a hill for like 12 hours and just run through all the, and give yourself the advice of yourself if you were 80 and you'd done the thing that you wanted to do with your entire life. That's the best therapy you could ever get. Who has better context for all of the decision-making things and the way that you feel and the way that you act and all your history than you? Nobody. I don't care how good someone knows you. They don't know all that's going on here except you. So why would you need anything outside of you? Why would you need somebody else's advice? You don't need it. It definitely helps. There's definitely a room for this, an area for this. But it's the same thing as only wanting something out of the tasks that you're completing so far that you get the thing. So you're only doing it to a completionist to attain the outcome. As soon as you attain the outcome, you'll stop. Then what? You'll build a bigger outcome and then you'll go again. It's not very fulfilling, right? Because you'll just keep changing it. Or the more common answer is that you'll do it until it gets hard and then you realize that the outcome is a lot further away than you anticipated and then you don't like that. And especially in today's day and age, you'll think about it and then you'll get another idea and then you'll go to that one and you'll go to that stage in that idea and then it'll get difficult there and you go, well, didn't really think that it was going to be this hard. So then you go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. 20 years go past and you've had 65 different opportunities that you've gone a mile wide but an inch deep in all of them. What the fuck was the point of that? Why?
Yeah, it's how I've kind of identified how I've lived my life up until this point anyway, with that mentality. It's almost like an accident in most people's scenario. It's not like I got to a position where I was like, this is too far away, let's give up on that. It's just that something else presented itself that I was able to try and be good at. And it's like, oh, I'm good at this. Let's try this thing out. So it's the old saying where a jack of all trades is a master of none. And I do agree with it. Slowly, I'm starting to understand as I get a bit older that it's never meant to get easier. It's always, it should be hard. It should consistently be hard. If it's getting easier, then it's probably not worth doing in the first place. You should probably pick something else to do. It should always stay at least somewhat difficult. I do apologize so far in this podcast. There is one question that I usually ask everyone to start it off with, and it's annoying me that I haven't asked it to you yet. So I'm going to have to quickly go back and ask it to you. And it's, how do you feel in this exact moment? Like, not just sitting on this couch, but where you are in your life, hungry, tired, fulfilled, annoyed, frustrated. How do you feel right now?
A good question. I don't really concern myself with how I feel all that much because I need to do things and they have to get done. I'm going to do them regardless of how I feel. I'm in a really good spot, but it's only been through very, very deliberate action and accepting the fact that it's all my fault. Everything. Every single possible outcome is all because of me. And I think the feeling that's generated off the back of that is acceptance. Not that is necessarily a feeling, but that's the way I'm describing it. So I'm accepting of the fact that everything's my fault, and I also don't know where it's going. And I don't care that I don't know, because I'm not meant to know. Because if I did know, then what would be the fucking point of going? Like, if I knew exactly how every outcome was going to go out from this moment until I step out of here and drive home, and I knew the entire succession plan of my entire life and my career and everything and how many kids I was going to have and all that sort of stuff, why would I bother? I already knew what was going to happen. So I'd provide no effort. I'd probably turn into a fucking pile of sludge and just fucking exist. Yuck.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely accepting of, I know what I want to some degree, and even that's up for debate.
Yeah.
Even it depends on how philosophical you want to get into it as well, because you don't even know what you want. Because there are external forces that are guiding you, whether you believe in that or not, that are pushing you towards certain things. And whether you want to go esoteric or whether you want to go scientific, you can go esoteric and say that it's a higher version of you or a spirit or whatever. You can go scientific and say it's the unconscious. Every time you program something into your unconscious from your conscious mind. So everybody goes, "Oh, your unconscious rules everything." It's like, yeah, well, yeah, that's the case, but you can program it consciously through intention and thought. So if you say, like you would have said to yourself one day, what would it be like if I ran a podcast? You would have said that to yourself, and put it out there and just left it and forgot about it. And then 2 years later, you were presented with the opportunity and you're like, wow, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
No, you said it to your brain and your brain stored it and went, the thought of doing it generated emotion, and the emotion was enough of a charge that you eventually acted upon it. That's it. That's how it works.
100% agree.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
Because you pontificated inside your own head. You went, that would be really cool. Why would that be really cool? Because I get to meet interesting people, and that would make me feel X. That would make me feel important or satisfied or happy or grateful.
Fulfilled.
Any one of those.
Yeah.
And your brain went, huh, okay. I'll remember that, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then I'll guide you somehow, some way on a very extrapolated long time. This is why it's hard for us to say that it's not a coincidence, because we think that it is. Because it could be a 10-year process and we just haven't thought that that pinball, or that domino hit that domino, and then it's too much stimulus.
Yeah.
But whether you like it or not, that's how it works. So you present yourself with the opportunity consciously, and then it goes into the unconscious, and then it will eventually present you with that opportunity to make that decision. Yeah. And it might need to present it to you a couple of times before you're fucking smart enough to take the plunge. Like, say, for instance, I said to my subconscious, I want to see a blue butterfly this week. And then I just think about what it would be like to call it in advance and see it. I'd probably be pretty excited because I'd be like, haha, I fucking called that.
Yeah.
So then I think about how that would feel, and then I just went, and let it go. When I get home today, my subconscious might feed me the thought that I want to go for a walk. Because how else am I going to see a fucking blue butterfly if I stay indoors all day?
Yeah.
I can't. I might just go, yeah, I feel like going for a walk. Why not? Take my dog, go for a walk. And then I go, well, I usually take this path, but I don't feel like that today. I want to go this way. And I go this way. I see the blue butterfly, and I go, huh, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
No, cunt. You fucking made that happen. And everybody will chalk it up to luck and serendipity and whatever else. The way that I've understood the universe at the moment and life in general is that there are no accidents whatsoever. There's no coincidence. There's no luck. I have evidential proof from my own experiences that completely destroy that narrative. That gives you a lot of power. Because now nothing happens because that guy is lucky and you're not. Nothing happens because it was an accident and you didn't mean it and nothing meant it and it just happened. How do you pinpoint your reaction to that if it's something that is just coincidental or accidental, or you either trip and fall into $1 million business or you don't? You're either lucky enough to get born to rich parents or you're not. Ew. Where's the mobility in that? Where's the I can now do this because I have the power, because A, everything's my fault, and B, nothing is not on purpose. So that if I continually feed myself the inputs to get closer to the thing that I want, it might not happen in the way that you think it's going to happen. You're not concerned with why, you're not concerned with how. You're concerned with what, and what is going to make you feel when it happens. And then you just live in the unexpected, joyous nature of that, where you never know where it's going to come from, or you never know why it's going to happen, but you know the directional bias of which you'd like to move. And you go, fuck, how good is this? I couldn't even imagine this.
Yeah.
It's unreal. I talked about this on my show the other day, and I was like, when I quit rugby league, I was 21, and I was a good athlete, and I had a whole life ahead of me. I'm like, oh, this fucking sucks. I was like, this sucks. Like, I thought I was going to play NRL, and I thought I was going to be like the captain of State of Origin, all this sort of thing, and that was just my conjecture on the thing. And I had this vision when I was like 16, and I was kicking goals in front of my house. I used to have trees in front of my house. Oh, sorry, way earlier than that, 13. And I used to have these trees in front of my house, and I used to kick goals and think like, oh, wow, the crowd's going crazy, and I'd envisage like the crowd going nuts, and that was like, it was all for me. And then I quit rugby league, and I was like, oh, that vision has to die now. That's kind of sad. And I thought about it for a little bit, and then I forgot about it. And then 2 years later, I started Ju-Jitsu, basically because what I can now theorize that I probably said to myself is that I want to compete again. And then the opportunity was presented to me when my best mate Zach said, do you want to train karate in the garage during the middle of the fucking scamdemic and the lockdown? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I want to do that. So that opportunity was presented. I said yes. And then everything since that day has just gone,
Yeah.
everything. It's ridiculous. And then I lived that vision at ADCC in 2022 in Vegas with a fucking massive crowd cheering.
Yeah, that's mad.
And it shot me into that moment, and it kind of took out from the performance. I was not as focused as I usually am, because I'm like, oh. I was like, did this really fucking happen? Yeah. And it did. And that's all it is, because I had that vivid vision. I knew what it was going to feel like when I walked out. So much. If you want to get into like the real deep depths is like the more emotion you can generate to it is the more energy that you generate to it. And it's going to sound fucking retarded, but I'm going to say it anyway. The 11th dimension is basically like the creationist. There's 12 dimensions. And the 11th dimension is basically the creationist thing of like the advanced level of string theory. Like everything sits along these strings. And you essentially can tickle these strings to deliver you the thing that you draw the most emotion to. This is like how manifestation works. People usually do this for a negative element. They go, oh my God, what if it goes wrong? What if they leave me? And then a year later they leave them and they're like, I couldn't have seen that happening.
Yeah.
No, fuckface. You drew that to you because you made actions based off the feeling that you wanted to feel.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you end up, it's like guitar strings. You just pluck the strings and you end up learning how to play the song. And then you learn it so well. It's like singing along to a song. You first have to like read the lyrics and you hear it and you kind of got to put it together. You're not that good at it. You have no idea where the song's going or how it's going to go. Then eventually through enough repetition of this process, you can sing the song without even thinking about the lyrics. Then you can turn the song off and sing the song by itself. Like I can rap fucking Without Me from Curtain Call by itself because I just drilled it into my head when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I haven't listened to that song in like 6 months. But I could do the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of this process where you drill it down, you go, all right, what would I want to happen and how is that going to make me feel? And if it makes me feel like this, then I just got to live that moment in my head again and 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 again, that I charge so much energy towards it that it actually comes to fruition. Because it's like this reciprocal nature. You have to be around things that you've attracted. You have to be around things that seem familiar. That's why people get into these rut where they hang around dickheads and they just experience dickheads. Well, you're used to it because you hang around fucking dickheads. Or they hang around very negative, toxic people, and that energy is very sticky and gross. And you have negative and gross things happen to you. You're like, why the fuck does this keep happening? It must be a fucking coincidence. It's not. It seriously fucking isn't.
Yeah.
It's you thinking about that activity and how it makes you feel, and then you're putting like the movie on in your head, like, oh, I feel like this all the time. I feel like this all the time. I feel like this all the time. So you're going to be attracted to things that make you feel like that. It's pretty common sense when you break it down to its like constituent elements.
Yeah.
So if you want to change that, well, then you change the way you feel internal. This is why I said everything is internal. Because if you just generate a feeling, and I know it sounds all woo-woo, hippie, whatever. I've fucking done it, so it works.
Yeah.
But if you generate a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment, well, then you naturally will automatically gravitate towards things that will produce that for you. So you go, well, I will start the podcast because I want to feel fulfilled, and I'm not setting my laurels on it being the perpetual thing that I feel. I know there's going to be ups and downs. I know there's going to be lefts and rights and whatever. But the general waking moment will be that I'm either attaining it or I'm working towards it. And the working towards something is the fulfilling part. So thereby you would be in the fulfillment process. And now you get to do this.
Yeah.
And it was a thought before it was anything. And if you want to get biblical, well, I'm not giving you a choice. I'm fucking doing it anyway. The first thing was the word. In the beginning, it was the word. Yeah. And then everything came from that. That is actually the secret key.
I agree.
That's the key.
I agree.
Because where did this studio come from? Where did it come from? Some cunt will say Bunnings and be a fucking smart ass, and I'm like, all right, fair enough. But what drove you to go to Bunnings? You thought about what it could be like, and then you went, I like that idea. I'm going to pull the red string and see how fucking far it goes. And then eventually you were like, you chalked up the fucking balls to ask your first guest on, and they came, and it was a bit clunky, it was a bit gross.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a bit shit, and you prefer people not to listen to it, go back and listen to it.
Yeah, link in the description.
Go back and listen to it. But it was exciting enough that it didn't dampen the original flame of the idea. And then you allowed that to foster and grow, and you feed it, and you go, no, I know what this could be. I know it. I don't know why I know it, but I know what it could be. I know what it could make me feel. And eventually you get here.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
Oh, dude, it's the best. It's the best. It's the best string I ever decided to pull on. To be honest, in my own personal life, the pursuit of this has been my favorite string. And the 11th dimension, for anyone who is, I understand it because I've looked into it a little bit. It is hippie, hoorah, spiritual kind of talk. You know,
all the best shit is.
It really is. But funnily enough, recently I did watch the Sassy the Sasquatch movie by Jared Wright on like the Big Les show kind of. film. So I'll put a link in the description. It talks about that 11th dimension, which you summarize perfectly. You are, in this metaphorical sense, Sassy, for everyone who wants to go back and watch it. And you are... Yeah. What are you talking about? Anything that you want, every possible version of you is existing because you've decided to envision it in the first place. And then you get to act out in which dimension you want to be living in. It's all just... They are all happening simultaneously in this idea, of course.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
True.
And that's why...
It's backed up by quantum physics now.
Yeah, exactly. Every action doesn't
You didn't need the confirmation for, but...
Yeah, not every action does have an equal and opposite reaction. Every action is happening simultaneously in quantum physics, which is so dope.
Everything you've already thought about doing and everything you've ever not thought about doing has already been completed.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking mind fuck. But think about it the way that I think about it. So I think about it like this. There is a version of me somewhere in the fourth dimension, the ethereal realm, that has done every single fucking thing I've said I've ever wanted to do. I'm chasing that cunt. There is also another version of me that is a jackass. That has done nothing that they've said they wanted to do. They're a victim. They're a cunt. They're fucking blaming everybody in their personal circle. They're overweight. They're fucking disgusting. That's my enemy. I'm doing everything I can to get away from that cunt because I know the outcome of it.
And you know he exists.
I know that they're real.
Yeah.
The only thing stopping them from being real in this reality are my choices and my decisions and whether my word is matched by my actions. That's it. And the only thing stopping me from gaining altitude to get to the guy that I know that does all the things that I'm measuring myself against, because I don't measure myself against anybody else. Fuck everybody else. You have completely different experiences to me. You have a completely different set of timelines. You have a completely different set of choices. You different people. Like, we're all the same, but we're different people. So why would I compare my results to your results if you have a completely different set of existences? That doesn't make any sense. It's an unfair competition.
Yeah.
You don't compare. You don't judge a monkey for its ability to swim or a fish to climb a tree. Why bother? Yeah. So compare yourself to the version of you that you know you could be if you did everything right. Not like one all the time, because that cunt's bored out of his brain because he fucking flips a coin and it lands on the one he says. He plays the lotto, he wins. That's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
If you won every single thing you decided to go for, and you just won automatically, I'm like, I'm going to start baseball today. Oh, I'm the world champion of baseball in 3 days.
Yeah.
That's boring as fuck.
Yeah.
You want the challenge. You want the struggle. You want the ups and downs. Whether you know it or not, you want the fucking failures. Eating shit is the best. If anyone can take anything from this episode, is that you need to change your appetite for eating shit pie. Because it's fucking delicious when you get used to it. Yeah. You just need to do it. It's just like, and I sit here on the ivory throne because I started Ju-Jitsu as a fucking freak athlete and whatever else. But from where I started to where I am now are completely different people. And I fucking sucked ass back then. I was good for a white belt because I was big and strong and fast and no one can fucking do anything to me. And I was like, okay. And that's different from somebody starting from a desk job who is an IT nerd who has no athletic capabilities. Sure. But from that to where I am now is a fucking parabolic difference. Huge difference. Yeah. And it's just a decision.
Well, it would be shit in order to be the best at everything straight away. What's the good part of life is that you get to make the decision to be the best every single day, you know?
Yeah.
As you said, 3 days into being the best baseball player in the world, unfulfilling.
That's gay.
But if you got to make the decision for 3 days consecutively, let's just say if there was 1 billion opportunities and every opportunity you said, I'm going to be the best, and you never said no to any of them, maybe it would be fulfilling, you know? If the time isn't what necessarily makes it bad, it's the pursuit in going towards something that makes life fulfilling.
It's the earning it.
Yeah.
It's the earning it. It's eating shit pies regardless.
Yeah.
It's getting an appetite for it. It really is. I had to eat a lot of shit pies, like especially when I got my blue belt. And you're allowed to leg lock at my gym when you're a blue belt. That means you can also get leg locked at your gym when you're a blue belt. And I'd never done them before. So the fucking piranhas came out. They're like, we can get the big guy finally.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months went past and I learnt a little bit. And then their window of opportunity closed and it's never opened ever again.
Yeah.
But you have to do that, and it has to be painful. And eating a shit pie and a loss in a competition, I've lost very few times. I've lost a fuckload more in my life, and I lost a fuckload more in rugby league. And everybody thinks that my record's very impressive, but it's only been off the back of me being able to eat shit sandwiches, shit pies, or whatever you want to call it, through my previous sporting endeavor and through life and through business and all that sort of stuff. And you realize the people that get the appetite for eating shit pies faster are the ones that do way better.
Yeah.
Because you don't let it stop you. Just because you can't hit a move, or just because you get submitted, or just because you ring 100 people, 4 people answer the phone, 1 person tells you to fuck off, and the other 3 people are busy. You don't know how to handle the busy objection, so you go, fuck, I've wasted my whole day. No, you haven't. You made 100 calls, and you found 100 people that are not interested in what you want to do. That's great. Move them to that list, and then keep going to find the people that are interested, because eventually someone's got to be interested in what you do. And when you get there, you'll have a better experience of it because you ate shit and you pushed it uphill, so much so that you could appreciate the person that actually gave a fuck about what you did. Like, I did a lot of sales training when I was a personal trainer. Making cold calls fucking sucks dick.
Yeah.
It's so shit. But you do it because you know that eventually somebody will be interested enough that you'll be able to help them get towards what they want to do faster. Because you have a system and you have a process and you've got mentors that have done it before them, and then they can teach them how to do it. And it's been a joyous experience for you, which means it'll be a joyous experience for them if they really apply themselves and do the hard work. So you set that aside and you go, well, I'm going to set my expectations. Probably 1 in every 50 people will be that way. So if I have 80 people in a row tell me to fuck off, well then, out of the 100, I've got 2 people that are going to tell me no, not to fuck off.
Yeah.
So I've only got I've got 18 calls to make, and I'm guaranteed to find fucking somebody.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
You just got to push shit uphill for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's that shit sandwich or it's that shit pie. I remember you told me about your craving for a shit pie last time we sat down, and I said, I don't know
Very
about
strange.
that until you explained it to me.
Not literally.
Until you explained it to me. And as I said, I've been trying to instill that in everything I've been doing since then, referring it back to that exact same shit sandwich, shit pie, for example. Hey,
You get used to it.
Yeah, you do. And to be honest, you said it, you crave it. You enjoy it because you know what comes from suffering. Or not suffering, but eating shit.
Well, we're only subject to the borders of our perspective. And if you live a very secluded life, like you don't talk to anybody, you don't have conversations, you don't speak, you're basically a subject of your own thoughts. You've got a very narrow window of the world. Like if you never traveled to another country, you have a very narrow window of the world. You've never left your town or your city or your suburb. You have a very narrow window of the world. There is so much shit you can be exposed to. And some of that, most of it, is behind tons of shit.
Yeah.
And you've got to be willing to go through it. That's all it is. Like whether you want to, like starting a business has been one of the most painful things I ever decided to do. But it's also one of the best things I ever decided to do. And it's front loaded. The front loaded stuff at shit at the start, you don't get me wrong, I still go through shit today. The front loaded shit at the start is almost the direct and equal opposite reaction to the amazing shit on the back end. Like there's no accident or coincidence that I get to fucking train every day as many hours as I want and work and do this. You asked me last week, you're like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yes, sweet, let's do this day.
Yeah.
No worries. Cunts are at work right now.
Yeah, I know.
Some fucking retard is working a 9 to 5. You're not a retard. You're okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Not my choice. Your choice. Fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
But some people are stacking shelves at the minute. And I wouldn't be able to do this. And I also wouldn't have the lessons to be able to make this interesting if I hadn't made that decision. And it was fucking brutal at some points.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a cafe once. There was the Baron at Castle Hill at the back of Towers there. It's not there anymore. My mate Dan DeMardos used to own it, and awesome cafe. And I was doing these calls, but for my own business, for personal training, and ringing cunts that haven't shown up to the gym in more than 3 months. These are difficult conversations.
Yeah,
It's not easy. It's not easy to get somebody who signed up to a gym with a ton of motivation, went for 2 weeks, realized how hard it was, saw no results, stopped going, and then you're calling them 12 weeks after their motivation has gone and flatlined, and their guilt and shame has gone like this because they've gone and they've tried to do it and they have to tuck their tail between their legs. So much so that they won't cancel their membership because they have to do it face to face and live that embarrassment. I'm talking to these people.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you want to lose some weight or what?
Yeah.
And I did, I must have done like 55 calls that morning and not one person picked up. And I sat there and I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? And I thought to myself, this was my one moment of weakness that I've had in business. And I thought to myself, I could just go get another job. I could give up on the PT thing. I could fuck this off. It'd be so much easier. And that scared me enough. That thought petrified me enough to pick up the phone again and go straight back into it. Because I was like, no, not this lifetime. You're not fucking selling out for anything. No. Because I tried that. I've been fired from every single job I've ever had.
Yeah.
I have not maintained a job once.
Yeah.
Once. And that's not on purpose. That's not an accident. It was purposeful. I would get to a stage where I'd realize that I had so much more to give and nowhere to give it to. And hierarchically, people would be in positions of power that shouldn't be there because they had no better ideas. It was just a tyrannical regime. They've been there longer than I have.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're better than the job. And it squandered any upward mobility of giving a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated that. Because I always want to do things better. Like I said before, I love pulling things apart and seeing how they work. And how can they be done better and systematizing things and accelerating this part of the process so that this one gets easier and really diving in deep on how things work. I really am fascinated by that. I've been doing a shit ton of research into like the Middle East war and all that sort of stuff at the moment. Like, how did this happen? Why did they get involved? What's this for? What's this for? I love it. It's great. I could watch a fucking 3-hour history documentary and be like this the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, this is sick.
Yeah.
I want to know about this sort of stuff. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And there's some subjects I'm the complete opposite with. I couldn't give less of a fuck about. Like any vlogger. Punish.
Yeah.
Punish. But that was like the reason I got into business, because I can't do that in a job, because you get given your tasks and you get told what to do and then that's it. And whether you do them or not, no one really cares for the most part. If you're in a hospitality job and you don't clean that one table, no one's going to fucking scold you for it. It's just, it is what it is. And I just didn't like that environment whatsoever. And then I had that realization when I was sitting at the cafe and I'm like, fuck, I can't go back to that. The pain of going back to that and putting my tail between my legs and giving up was worth more to me than not getting someone answer the phone that day. And guess what? I made another 50 calls and no one fucking answered.
Yeah.
But I got better.
Yeah.
Because I fucking did it.
Yeah.
And I took that day as such a pivotal and important day in a lesson for never giving up. Because if you don't give up, you can't lose.
Oh, dude, I'm so glad you just said that.
You can't lose.
Oh, I love
How do you lose if you never stop trying?
Yeah.
It is impossible. I don't give a fuck if it takes you 25 years longer than someone else. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter? Does it matter if you decide that you want to be as big as me? It might take you 30 years in the gym. Does it matter?
No,
because
not if it's what you want.
Because the process is the thing that's important anyway, and you'll learn so many lessons and so many gratifying things as a result of going through those trials and tribulations and trying this way of eating and trying this way of training. How does this way of training match this way of eating? Does this work? Do they make sense? No. Okay, so now I know this way of training doesn't work with this way of eating, but what about this way of training? And then you match those two together. And the experience of doing that and pulling it apart and seeing how it all works and going, all right, cool, I tick that off the list and go this way and this way and this way. The whole time you're building you. The whole time.
Yeah.
And you're the most valuable asset you have. You hear billionaires say this all the time. They're like, what if you had to start again tomorrow? No problem. Because I've built the skill set. You can't take away sales from me. You can't take away all the information in my head. You can't. You can't take it away. Unless you MK Ultra me and fucking smash my brain into oblivion.
Yeah.
But you can't take that away. You could take away all the cars, all the money, all the watches, all the fame, all the everything, the Instagram accounts, whatever. I know how to build them now. I know how to build the business now. I know how to hire people and make acquisitions and do these things. That can never be taken away. The real thing that they get is the freedom of knowing that they have skills.
They've done it in TV shows. They make them before.
Undercover CEO.
Yeah, shit like that. Like where they have like a 30 days sometimes to be
Yep.
able to make $1 million business, and they
Yep.
have, as you said, the skill sets in order to do it, which proves the point, which is the most cliche quote of all time. It's all about the journey, and it's
It
not
is.
about the destination. But fuck, it's so true. And when you said that you will achieve it if you really want it, fuck, I resonate with that, because I've been saying through all of 2023 on the podcast 1,000,000 times that life will give you whatever you want. It won't give you what you want when you want it. But if you really want it, you'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, relating it back to what you said earlier, that now I'm starting to add a little bit more towards that quote, which is, and the funny thing is, you don't really know what you want until you get it. And you said, I do whatever I want, and so did I. I pretty much live the same life. I do whatever I want. But again, I'm not even sure about what I want until I'm presented with the thing, you know what I mean? Then I
Yeah.
realize, fuck, I've wanted this the whole time. It's crazy that you can be on a journey experiencing all the fruits that come with it towards a destination, just to get to the destination, which is different than what you thought it was. And that's actually the thing.
That's the fun part. The fun part is in not knowing where you're going to end up. Because if you knew, it'd be boring.
Yeah.
If you knew the end of the movie before you watched it, why the fuck would you watch it?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not watching. What the fuck is that movie? It's got Denzel Washington, Book of Eli. I'm not watching it again. I know the cunt's blind.
Yeah.
It's boring for me now. I don't want to watch it. Sorry if you haven't watched it. The guy's
Thanks
blind.
for the reminder. I
Yeah,
forgot.
yeah, get over it.
Yeah.
But to go back on what you said just before, is that it's true. The universe always says yes. Every single time it says yes. So if you say, I'm a fuck up, it goes, all right, buddy, you're a fuck up.
Yeah.
Here you go. If you say, I'll never make it, all right, you'll never make it. If you say, I'm a loser, no worries. Yes. You say, I want to be a millionaire. It goes, yes. No worries. There's a whole bunch of fucking processes in between that cast doubt and shadows and all that sort of stuff. Doubt, I think doubt is the thing that you have to get used to as well. You're going to doubt if it's going to work. Of course you are. You're never going to know when it's going to work, and you're probably not even going to know how it's going to work ever. Really. Like I always take this like smart ass approach to people that are like, I'm just taking a year to figure it out. Figure out what, cunt? I have not figured out one single thing in my entire life.
If I know anything, it's I know nothing, dude.
I'm happy to say that. Yeah, Seneca is like, I know nothing. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Because gravity is just a theory.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fucking shape of the earth is. I don't care, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if every single thing that I've ever read is fucking hogwash. I don't know. I don't know if the sky is actually blue or if it's just because I'm using human eyes to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm never going to know.
And it is the not knowing that to be honest, if I had all the answers, I've always said it, like I enjoy not knowing. Not
the best
knowing
part.
is what makes life fun. It's what creates curiosity. It's create drive. Like all these things is because I don't fucking know.
That's what people need to realize. And they need to realize that you're never going to know if it's going to work, but you should do it anyway. And that's why the journey is way more important than the outcome. Because you're choosing the not knowing and doing it anyway. You're never going to know if the business is going to be $1 million business. You're never going to know if the sporting endeavor is going to be a success. You're never going to know if this job is going to be better than the other one. Just decide and fucking have a crack and find out. And just keep marching in the same direction until you get your answer. And then if it's the wrong answer for you, you learnt all those valuable lessons in that process, which means it wasn't a failure. It wasn't a fuck up. You're not a loser. Go and do something else. Yeah. Now you've got skills that can be transferred into something else. And you never know. Like this, the thing that I run now is my 8th business.
Wow.
I had a dog blanket business before this, for like the back of your car. I had a personal training directory business before this. I had, what else did I have? I had a personal training business in person, then I had an online personal training business as well. I've done, what was I doing before that? I've done a bunch of shit. I don't even remember them.
Yeah.
I seriously, sunglasses. I sold blue light sunglasses for a little bit. And they all fucking sucked.
But I'm guessing that you gained a little bit of knowledge for every single pursuit.
From the sunglass business, I realized that like the logo and the name and the brand, Doesn't really matter if you don't fucking put a website together and get cunts to fucking sign up to it. I spent so much time on that. I spent so much time on trying to figure out a name and trying to figure out a logo and trying to figure out a color scheme. And these things are important, but they're not as important as you think they are when you first start. And then with the dog blanket business, that actually started going really well. But then I realized the bullshit around productization and how quickly that can get out of hand based on your only vector of advertising and telling people that you have a product is through Facebook ads. Because I didn't have a social media presence for it. I didn't want to take the time to grow the page and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted money fast. And I realized that that's fucking stupid as well, because money comes fast, money goes fast. And it did. And that was the thing that I was teaching myself as a lesson, because it did start working well and it was making money. And then it got taken away very quickly because I was stupid enough to click a link that said your Facebook account violates community guidelines. I clicked it. They stole my ad account.
Yeah.
So I had a $15,000 a month business go away overnight like that.
Wow.
Because I had no advertising and I had no branding to back it up and I had nothing. And I was like, fuck, what am I going to do now? I thought I was going to be a millionaire in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I just sat there. I seriously was. I was like, this sucks. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But then, funnily enough, that drove me into building a personal brand that was way more important, and that I would do the personal brand thing. Like, I've been doing HPU for 6 years now, the whole time. And I have posted on my stories every single fucking day for 6 years straight.
Yeah, I know. I see him, bro. I like him.
Every day. Yeah. Someone asked me, they're like, how do I build a personal brand? And I sent them that. That's it. I said, post every fucking day for 6 years. And at the time it was 5 years, but this was a year ago. And that's it. And I've never given up, and I'm not going to. And I say the same thing on my podcast. I say I'm going to do this for the next 10 years and then some, because I fucking want to do it. And I'm going to do it for 2 times a week at minimum. And if I miss an episode 1 week, I'm going to do another one the week after. And that's it. Because the extraordinary thing isn't the result. The extraordinary thing isn't the task. I can go to the gym once and no one gives a fuck. I can bench press once and it's never going to change my body. The extraordinary thing is the commitment to it. If I bench press once a week for the next 15 years, okay, we're getting somewhere. That's impressive. And people need to think about that their whole life. They just change one thing, one aspect about their life, and they just broaden their time horizons to 20 years. Go, wow, what could I get done if I did this for 20 years straight? It is almost guaranteed whatever you want. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. You want to be a millionaire? You take 20 years, you take a 20-year time horizon to think about it properly, not a 90-day. That's all bullshit.
Yeah.
All of that is bullshit. Every cunt you see on the internet that has drop shipped their way to a fucking $1 million business in 90 days had 100 other drop shipping businesses before that, and they've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Every one of them. I got stuck into that because the dog blanket business was a drop shipping business. And I was like, oh, it's working. Oh. But I didn't have the experience from all the other ones to know that that was a fucking stupid idea, and I was over leveraging myself onto one channel. But if I had 20 years to do that business again, I would start posting on social media every single day, get validation through a brand and make sure that I had a personal brand on that. And then I would take the time to like figure out avenues that I could get people to affiliate for the business. So I'm not just on one channel for Facebook ads. So I got a team of people here, and then I'd have a marketing people here, and I'd post videos, and I'd get dog creators to fucking promote it and do influencers and all that sort of stuff. But because you have the bullshit timeline in your head of 90 days, all that stuff sounds unreasonable because you've just got to make money. And you're just only looking at the result. You're only looking at the fucking carrot.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
But people definitely do overestimate what they can achieve in 90 days to a year, and they underestimate what they can achieve in 20. You know.
Good job. I said that last time.
Did you? Maybe that's where I got it from then, so I appreciate
Maybe.
that.
I don't even know. I've said that before.
I've definitely obviously heard it from somewhere. So
I don't own that
appreciate
statement, by the way.
Yeah. And I'm starting to try and look at the bigger picture and all that too. And consistency, I've also agreed, is key for everything I'm trying to do for the rest of my life. You actually did say this to me, where if I'm going to do something, I'm going to commit to the fact that I'm going to consistently do it for the rest of my life. It's such an important way anyone should live their life. Consistency is key in every regard. And it's funny that the business got taken away by just one click, but the one thing they couldn't take away was the skill sets in which you've learned in order to do so, just like we were mentioning before. You're very, very logical thinking, which is awesome. And it's funny that you can also be so spiritual. And, you know, you say that on one hand you have emotional, on one hand you have spiritual. On one side you have making money, on one side you have spiritual. But you've combined two of the completely different categories of spiritual and logical. You know, I think that everything spiritual can be defined logical. And I will get to a couple questions I have to about that later. But I wanted to first ask you, everyone knows the logical steps in order to become great, you know, in any field. And that's consistency, repetition, focus, drive, pursuit, all these things. And one of your famous quotes is, and I definitely relate it to you, pure cunt. Right? It's your answer to the obvious question.
That is actually original for me.
Yeah. Well, then congratulations. Because every time I hear pure cunt or even think of you, those two go hand in hand with each other.
That's funny.
A lot of people, when you said it on our first interaction on the podcast, a lot of people said, dude, that pure cunt, it was gold, dude. I have to say, if anyone hasn't seen it, it was a great
I'll make a shirt. Please
do.
Pure cunt.
Pure cunt.
That's funny.
And you did mention on the Betar project as well that it is an answer to a stupid question, you know? Like, it's like everyone knows in what you need to do in order to become great. My question to you is, if everyone knows it, why do you think people don't do it? You know, what's stopping people from actually achieving what they desire?
Because I think there's a secret.
Okay, yeah.
There's not. The secret is in the work that you know you should be doing and you're avoiding. There's no secret. If you want to be a world champion at anything, you got to train every day. Where's the secret in that?
Yeah, I know.
Are they going to be going out and fucking around every night? No. Okay, so what's the opposite of that? They're going to be getting sleep. Okay. Are they going to be eating KFC every day? No, because this is fucking horrible for you. Okay, what's the opposite of that? They're probably going to be eating correct meals based on nutrition that they need. They're going to be impinging on their recovery by making sure they do way too much. No. Okay, so find a happy medium where you're doing enough that you get good, but not too much where your body breaks down, you get injured and all that sort of stuff. Where's the secret?
Yeah.
If you have a business and everybody in the world knew about your business, you'd be a fucking multi-billionaire. So start telling cunts you have a business. This is not fucking rocket science.
Yeah.
Like, don't have any leads. How many people have you reached out to in the last 38 hours or 24 hours? None? Okay. Well, then why do you think that people will magically find out about it?
Yeah.
Very fucking simple.
That's a good answer. I think that people do think there's a secret too. I think another thing people are lacking is I think people don't have an imagination. I've been thinking about it a lot over the last few months in particular. And everyone knows what an imagination is. You usually have it when you're a child. You know, you're entering the fantasy realm, a place in which you're not in. It doesn't exist. In order to dream big, you have to be able to imagine, just like you did when you were a kid, of a life in which you're not living. So I think people lack that. You know, I notice most people aren't creative or expressive in any way. Maybe that has something to do with the imagination. That's what gets people stuck in a single 9-to-5 Netflix binging afternoon and repeat. It might be a lack of an imagination, but another thing people are definitely lacking is honestly intelligence. I think intelligence might come into play with why people don't do it. They don't have the intelligence in which they are able to make the right routine decisions, the right habits. People just might not, I'm not saying they can't become smart enough, but if you're someone who is not working towards a big enough goal, you might not have yet learnt the information in order to get there. You know what I mean? Just because you're not smart enough doesn't mean you can't become smart enough. And you might just not know how to do it, you know?
More information is not the answer.
You don't think so?
What out of the examples that I just said would you need more information to complete your goals?
Just give me a couple of the examples again, sorry.
So if I wanted to be in the best shape of my life, how would I do that? Without looking up anything on your phone, without Googling anything. If I want to be in the best shape of my life, how would I do it?
Without any additional information?
Yep. You're not allowed to use your phone.
Yeah. To be in the best shape of my life, I'd probably just start by going for a walk, then learn to run, and then pick up something heavy, continue to pick it up over and over again.
So you know what to do, right?
Of course.
So you don't need information.
But I'm talking about a big dream of, say, becoming the best at something or the biggest or a multi-millionaire, for example.
Okay,
Like,
let's use a millionaire. I'm going to fuck you up with this still.
yeah.
How do you become a millionaire?
Obviously, you say there's a million ways to do so. But I do think without the information in order to get there, you won't be able to. I don't think you'll be able to get there without the information. That's
How do you do
my
it?
point. You have to start researching in which other ways people have done so first.
You have one thing that people trade you money for, and you tell them about it. That's it.
Yeah, but I have that. I have that skill. For example, my trade is the first one I can use. I could work in my trade for the rest of my life. Does not mean I'll become a millionaire.
Why not?
Because life has expectations of me. You know what I mean? You have to pay rent. You have to buy food. You have to do all these things.
Millionaires pay rent and buy food.
If I don't make the right decisions, as in like I don't have enough information in order to tell me where to put my money, how much to put it where, if I don't.
Okay, so if you wanted to be a
invest-
millionaire, do you or do you not understand the fact that you would have to save more than you earn? Save more than you spend.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so if you do that over a 20-year period, you'll be a millionaire.
Oh, yeah, right. Correct.
If you
I will have a
spend less
million-
than you earn,
Yeah.
you'll have more money at the end of your month than month at the end of your money.
Yeah.
Extrapolate that over a long enough time period, you'll be a millionaire.
I believe I'll be in a better financial position, but giving how much money you can earn in max potential inside of a career, inside of a job,
Yeah, but don't worry about max potential. We're saying, could you do it with no additional information?
I believe I would eventually be able to have $1 million in asset. Yeah,
Exactly.
I believe so. But I'm talking
With no extra info. So it's not intelligence then. It's not IQ. I know plenty of dumb cunts with fuckloads of money. I know heaps of dumb cunts with shitloads of money. It's got nothing to do with intelligence.
multi-millionaire. Would you agree you need to have a bit more intelligence?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. This guy is not a dumb cunt. He's a dumb cunt, but he's not.
Yeah.
Right? He obviously works hard and he had a common goal. But I know this guy. I used to train him at the gym. He makes multi-7 figures a year selling model fucking trains.
Okay.
Model trains.
Well,
And you know how he did it? He just didn't take no for an answer. At 16, he got fired from a hobby shop and they said, you'll never be anything in this industry. And he goes, fuck you, watch me. 25 years later, he bought them out. And he has 6 cars, a house that's paid off in 4 different locations and all this stuff. He couldn't even figure out how to lose weight. He couldn't figure it out. That absolutely perplexed his mind that if you ate shit food, you would be fat. He couldn't figure it out. He had to pay me to tell him how to do it.
yeah.
And it still didn't work, even with all the extra information that I gave him. I gave him so many tips and tricks. So many. I bombarded him with extra pieces of info. Didn't work. Why?
Maybe because intelligence might be used to describe multiple different ways that people can learn. You
He
know?
knew what to do. Just didn't do it.
But he's saying it's because he wasn't intelligent enough to follow that
No.
process. But he was intelligent enough to follow the other process.
How many people are jacked and have way less than multi-7 figures?
Yeah, a lot.
Substantially more than the other way around. So by that metric, he was at least quote unquote intelligent enough to figure that out, which is way harder to figure out for most people for some fucking weird reason. There's a lot of stigma around it. So why couldn't he figure out how to lose weight? Something that's so simple.
Yeah. It may. I'm not saying that's why I'm trying to work this out. Maybe the intelligence factor isn't that they don't have enough intelligence. It might just be that they're applying their logic of intelligence to the wrong field. Just like how your mate was intelligent enough to be able to earn himself a good amount of money, but he wasn't intelligent enough to be able to do that. So he's still intelligent, but he's just not applying his logic to the right aspects.
Depends on how you define intelligence.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get
We're going to
at.
do this again
Yeah.
because we keep defining words.
Yeah.
Intelligence is your ability to take new information and apply it immediately. That's intelligence. It's your rate of learning. So it's not about how smart you are. It's about I hear this and then I do it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And it has nothing to do with like massive amounts of information. So many people get themselves in paralysis by analysis. And I would actually say that more info is more detrimental than it is positive in 99% of cases. If you look up Ju-Jitsu on YouTube, there are 1,500 to 150,000 people that are putting videos out once a week, twice a week, whatever. I just made all those numbers up. A lot of people.
Yeah.
If you listen to all of them, you are absolutely bound to be ended up confused and completely befuddled. You'll have no idea what to do because this guy says to do it this way, 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 and they're all competing with each other. They all say do different things. You're like, well, which fucking one do I choose? Whereas if you just took the information of one guy and applied it, you'd be far further ahead than the person who sat there trying to figure out the best way to do it or the best information or the secret way or this guy must have the secret. The guy that listens to one dude, even if it's not the best way to do it, will go far further than the person who can't fucking decide what to do. So more info is not the answer. I used to be that person.
Yeah.
This is how I can say this with authority. I used to think, oh, well, you know, I just need more information. Well, up until the point. It could be that you don't know something that is hindering you, but the best way to find out about that is by doing it and pushing shit uphill and eating shit pies. How are you going to know if an armbar escape doesn't work if you don't try it with someone trying to break your fucking arm? You could read as many articles as you want about the intricacies of the way it works. You can't learn jiu-jitsu from a book. You can't learn business from a book. Actually, I would fucking stand on that hill. I learnt far more running one than I had ever learnt. And I've read 100 books on business. I had no context for the information. I had no reason to validate it because I'd never done it before. Like, I don't fucking feel good. I read business books. Yeah, fuck yeah. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, okay.
And I can't tell you the information that I read because I fucking forgot it all.
Yeah, okay.
Because it was never backed up by application. Ever. So then it's just useless clutter in your head that now stops you from making action.
And to be honest, it is a deterrent because you're no longer starting the business. You're wasting your time educating yourself on something you shouldn't be educating yourself on.
You could read 500 books on sales and have one sales call and still buckle it.
Okay. It's interesting because
you've never done it.
You also mentioned Patrick Bet-David before, who I'm a massive fan of. I've listened to a lot of his shit, and he talks about the fact that he read 1,000 books on business before he went and started his business, and he talks about it from a bit more of a positive note. So it's interesting to hear the other side of it and saying, well, unless you have the business in the first place, and what's the point of reading it?
But he had also had a myriad of experience in companies that were doing high-level shit that he wanted to know how to do it better. So he'd already lived the experience to have context for the information.
Okay.
He wasn't at the helm per se, but before he started his insurance company, he was part of a multi seven-figure business. Okay. And he like saw the intricacies of how it worked and da-da-da-da. He's like, oh, well, I know I can do this. I know I can do it.
He had the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then he also had the willingness to apply. And something that he talks about in his book that I just read is if you do nothing with this information, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So he goes, if I wanted to learn sales, I'd read about it, but then I'd go take that information and go straight away and apply it. Versus people who typically what happens is they read a bunch and then they do nothing. And they feel really good for reading it, but it doesn't get them anywhere. And then they read a bunch again and then they do nothing. That's what I did.
The same things with self-help books too. A lot of people do that with self-help, bro.
Fuck's sake. Don't.
Yeah. You're not a fan of self-help?
No.
Oh, dude, I love self-helps.
No.
Bro. They pump me up. They push me in my pursuit. I don't read it and then again, like, worry about that later. But if I'm feeling good and I'm in a healthy routine and I'm doing this and then I'm reading about someone else's experience doing something like that, pumps me up, keeps me going, you know? Just gives me that little bit of a push. Why aren't you a fan of self-help books?
I'm not a fan mostly of books that are written past like 1930 because there was a change mostly. Obviously, I've referenced Patrick Bet-David's come out last year, but I respect him and I've validated a lot of his experience through his words, and it's very hard to hide when you do hundreds of hours of content a week. Most people, specifically the self-help industry, used to write books pre-1930 to allow the transmutation of their thought pattern to yours and give you helpful tools and guides and other bits and pieces. And they did that for that purpose because there was really no industry that you could make money off it. They wrote the book to write the book because they knew it would be helpful and impactful. Past that stage, people could start making money publishing. People could start doing it to use it as an advertising avenue to put you into another thing. That's the majority of the self-help industry today. That what's his fucking name? The guy with the orange. What's that fucking stupid? It's the orange book with the word
Jordan Peterson?
fuck on it.
Oh, no. Orange book.
It's the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that
I have
cunt.
that. I haven't read it yet.
That cunt sucks.
Yeah, okay.
Sucks. What do you mean the subtle art of not giving a fuck? You wrote fuck on the front page of a book with an orange cover. You give the most fucks.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what has that cunt done? I don't know anything about him, but I sure as fuck don't want to listen to him because he wrote that book.
Oxymoron itself.
Well,
yeah.
you wrote that book because you wanted to make money off it. And it's abundantly clear. That's what it is. You read some books and they go, oh yeah, here's my course on the internet. You're like, are you fucking kidding? You're just trying to push me into this? Yuck.
Yeah.
That means the whole thing is an advertisement. So what use is that? Like, we don't sit there and watch the ads during the footy and go, yeah,
I'm grateful.
sick. This is sick.
Yeah.
And it's just very cheap and dirty and gross. And the reason I don't like it is because it perpetuates the mindset that I've just done a good work on destroying. When you read it, you feel good. And then it doesn't allow you to, it doesn't necessitate action off the back of it. Versus if you just internalized all of that, you'd have much better outcomes. You don't need some other cunt to motivate you to do what you need to do. You don't.
Correct, yeah.
You don't. You just don't. Just because somebody else is doing something great doesn't mean then you listen to them, you will also do something great. So it's nice. It's good. I put in the category of mental masturbation more than anything. Because you could listen to 100 Tony Robbins videos and get no better. You'd feel really good, but that's the trap of it. Because you feel good. You feel like you've accomplished something. Like, fuck yeah, I watched 100 Tony Robbins videos today. I'm killing it.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Versus you could watch 0 Tony Robbins videos and do all the things you needed to get done for that day and feel meh, but you've pushed the needle forwards and you listen to no self-help material, any of that sort of shit. Like I will listen to philosophy because I think that's much better. Like Alan Watts, massive fan of that cunt. But again, he's like kind of pre-1960s, 70s, whatever, where the information was there not to sell you into something. It was genuinely there because that was a thought product that they thought would be helpful for someone.
Yeah, just to open more people's minds and
Pretty
expand
much.
curiosity.
That was the design of it all. Versus today, kind of hard to delineate.
It's to sell a story, isn't it, today?
Pretty much.
All self-help books.
It's hard to delineate the charlatans now because they're very good at being charlatans. So I've done a complete 180 where I don't listen to any of it. And I don't read books from people, from self-help people, because even if the advice is good, they have no context of all the decisions and all the things that I've lived and like where to place that advice and like how to make that make sense. And it might be really good advice, but it might not be applicable to me. The advice that I give myself is certainly applicable to me. And to piggyback off the previous point, you don't need more information. You don't need more help.
It kind of makes me think, and I'm not even exactly sure. You've kind of been doing something that hasn't really been done before anyway. How many times in history, I'm not even sure, has anyone gone from white to brown in 23 months or something?
Once or twice. I think BJ Penn and Travis... It's not Travis Stevens, I think. I don't know. He was an Olympian judoka, black belt in judo, like unbelievable. And they gave him his black belt in 18 months, but just like... You're an Olympian in judo. You're fucking good at what you do.
Yeah.
There are a lot of crossover skills that would be very applicable. So he's the fastest ever. And then BJ Penn is 3 years to black belt. So both those two people.
Yeah. So it's like you haven't really... No one can really, except for maybe 2 people who have got completely different life journeys to you, to apply their information into how you should be living your life anyway.
And they got there differently.
You are proving it, in just the actions you're doing.
Yeah.
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 Another question I'm curious about too, along that same line is, do you think that anyone could have done what you did?
I've changed my tune about this recently. Not everyone can do what I've done. It's fucking obvious because otherwise I would have done it. Anybody can do whatever they would like to do to the degree of which they are willing to commit to it. Does that mean that you can get a brown belt in 23 months? Probably not. Does it mean that it matters? No. This is my thing. Get over it.
Yeah.
I still am willfully optimistic in the fact that if you set your mind to it, you can achieve it.
A time frame is the one thing that kind of stands out a lot about it when it comes to a lot of topics.
And that was what I was just going to go and say, is that in line with the conversation already, if you set the horizon for 20 years, you probably get better outcomes. So because theoretically time doesn't exist, it shouldn't matter to you the proximity of which you achieve it, when you begin to think about achieving it, to achieving it. That shouldn't matter. You will be able to do it. The time shouldn't matter. And that's the only reason I did what I did. I didn't set out a fucking calendar and say, I have to get my blue belt by this date. I have to get my purple belt by this date. It happened very naturally and very organically. And the only reason was because I never really set specific deadlines that would be brutally crippling if I hadn't got to them, and horribly unmotivating, which I think is what most people get stuck with. Again, it comes back to this theoretic of time. It's like people go, well, I have to be successful in 6 months. Why? What's the rush?
Yeah.
What's the rush?
To answer a bit furthermore, what do you think is the reason why you don't think anyone or everyone would be able to get it done within 23 months?
So many factors. I had a 17-year career in another sport beforehand. And then I also started lifting weights 12 years before that. And then I also studying mindset and psychology and high performance habits and all that sort of stuff 12 years before that. So even if you did all those things, you probably still couldn't do it.
It's the skills you learnt before even starting.
Well, let's say that I did that and I did all that and I started Jiu-Jitsu, but I was only 77 kilos and I didn't have a rapid succession to the start because the divisions are a lot deeper at 77. There's a lot more competition. There's a lot of people who've been doing jiu-jitsu for a lot longer. The heavyweight division is not in a sense easier because you still have to fight against big fat cunts who do nothing, which is much more difficult than people who want to engage and do things. But the technique gap isn't as high from when you start to when you've been doing it for 10 years, especially the way that most of them conduct themselves within the sport, because they don't have to learn the intricacies of technique because they're just bigger than everybody, so they can get away with it until somebody like me comes along who gives a fuck about technique and then is big and then is fast and then is agile, who is an athlete from another sport. Good luck. It's kind of like the perfect storm. And this is why it doesn't matter that anybody else can achieve it ever, because they shouldn't care, because their own timeline has already been set forwards. And it's not, I don't like this like free will versus determinism argument that Sam Harris propagates. Sam Harris is a fucking moron. I'm not going into that. Yeah. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Determinism, the fate is the free will of the higher version of you that knows that you could do all the things right. That's what it is. And that's your guiding mechanism. That's your directional bias. So if you future cast in your own head the 85-year-old version of you, and you've done all the things you wanted to do, monetarily, socially, relationships, health, whatever, everything you've achieved, you've already done it. And then you use that as your guiding mechanism of what's driving you forwards. And you know that you did all the right things that you wanted to do, and you've achieved all the things you wanted, and it made you feel a certain way, blah, 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 blah. Well, then you just keep pursuing that, keep moving forwards. So to then use the 25? To use the 25-year-old version of me as your guiding mechanism, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. And does it really matter if you achieve the same thing as I do, but you get to your ultimate end goal anyway? No.
No.
Of course not. As long as you enjoy the process of you getting towards the thing that you said you want, well, then why does it matter? And this is what I come back to as well, is like, it doesn't matter about time. And the reason that I was successful is because I just didn't give a fuck about how long it was going to take. The reason I've been so successful in jiu-jitsu is not steroids, contrary to popular belief, is because I was opened up a window of opportunity and I took it with both hands and just went fucking ham at it. Just took the opportunity. Most people are presented opportunities once or twice a year that could change their life, and they ignore them. And they go, oh, well, that wouldn't work. All right. Not going to work. Okay, fine. But if you take the opportunity, you have an idea. Like I have an idea for a course that I want to produce now. And I'm like, it's going to be hectic. I don't think of reasons that it's going to suck. I think of reasons it's going to be fucking really good. It's going to impact a lot of people and change a lot of lives. I think about it like that and I'm going, all right, sick. Start building it now. And I've already done all the mental construction. I just got to put it on fucking digital.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be running. It's going to be going. It's going to be hectic.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what this is.
And then if it fucking fails and it sucks, I'm going to do another one.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
If it fucking sucks, I don't give a fuck. Because I know there's going to be another opportunity around the window and I'm just going to keep taking them.
Do you have any insight? Anything you can like get me excited for when it comes to what this course is, or are you going to keep it until it comes
It's
out?
in very preliminary stages, but essentially it's going to be more of a how to design your own lifestyle to do the exact shit you want to do.
That's awesome, yeah.
And I'm not really going to focus it on jiu-jitsu people specifically, but it's if you want to do something, say you wanted to do this all day, every day, what are the best ways to monetize this so that you could do it all day, every day? That's it. If you want to do podcasts from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, there's a way to do it. And I've done it. I know how to do it with jiu-jitsu. It's no different from me doing it to this industry than it is to my industry. And it's cross-applicable because you learn skills that are necessary to be able to propagate that. And I'm just going to teach everybody about that. And like, if you want to play soccer all day and do that, cool. I can teach you how to do that too. I don't have to know anything about soccer because there's fundamental business skills that you can garner. There's fundamental skills around personal branding and marketing and sales and all these bits and pieces, like how to price your stuff and all those bits and pieces that I've developed over like the last 6 years. And you can apply it to anything.
That's awesome. That's mad. That's one of those things that I'm trying to build my life and get towards in the end. As I am interested in these, and we know that there's no secrets, right? But there is common links that a lot of things have together, and they are cross-applicable. And I'm trying to educate myself in a way where it's not like I need them in order to get there, because I feel like I'm going to get there anyway through pursuit. But I'm so curious as to what it is that make the best basketball player the best. What makes Michael Jordan? What makes this business? What makes Apple the greatest business? Those two things can correlate. You know, I really think they can.
I'll give away the whole course material for free right now. It's That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
All right, guys, sorry to interrupt. I hope you're all enjoying this episode with Josh. I know I personally had a great time filming it and doing the whole experience. I'd just like to take a quick second to announce that I have an online course coming out. Through credible information and sources, I've learned how to turn any dream into a passion. I'll be teaching you how to build your life around your interests in a way that helps monetize your entire situation. Say, for example, you want to do podcasting. It'll be teaching you how to be able to podcast from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night every day of the week and continue focusing on things you love. Let me just say that it will be the cheapest possible online course around this subject. So stay tuned. Follow for more.
I'll give away the whole course material for free right now. It's violent action. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You just need to be convinced that that is the case. That's it. My whole course is going to be a marketing play to get you to believe in yourself. That's it. I'm going to sell the belief in yourself to you and show you that it's true.
Yeah.
I don't fucking see any point to doing anything else. Because before you believe it can be done, it can't be done. It can't.
Yeah.
And
you haven't plucked that string yet.
Nah.
Yeah.
So what the fuck am I going to tell you about economics
Yeah.
or finance or marketing? If you don't believe the marketing process is going to work, it's not going to work.
I think that's a helpful course. Like, I know it's you're joking about the fact that it's so simple, but I think a lot of people need that. I really do. I think people need. I've been saying it a lot on the podcast, especially through 2023, that it kind of takes the right words in order for some people to resonate with. They could hear the same message a million times, but they could just swap a few of them around and have the exact same definition, but that's what hits them.
Saturation is important. Yeah, it definitely is. But that's where you work on your personal version of your perspective so that you can be intaking things and then applying them straight away, seeing if they work and seeing if they don't work. Because if it is just words, and it might sound better to you, but you have no evidence to supply that it worked whatsoever. And really, if somebody told you something that illuminated you to a certain degree, do you still have to do the work? Yeah, you still do. You might feel better about it, and sure, that's great. But there's going to be times where you don't feel good and you still got to do it. And you should prioritize for the fact that you're not going to feel fulfilled from the most part of the work. And then that's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not every training session is fucking gay old time for me. Some of them fucking suck balls. And it's not even like I get submitted or I get smashed or something like that. It's just what I wanted to work on didn't fucking work. And I'm like annoyed at it. Furious. I'm like, that needed to be perfect. And it fucking wasn't.
Yeah.
And then I sit over the steering wheel and fucking look out the window and go, what if that worked perfectly? But you do it anyway. And you set your absolute minimum litmus test for the experience as that being the standard. So that everything above that is great. And anything there is not surprising. You expected it. This is what hard is. Hard is doing it even when it doesn't work and continuing down the path. Like today, I had one of those sessions where it was a bit hit and miss. But last night, I fucking annihilated everybody and I hit every single move that I wanted to hit and it was just perfect. No one got even a tiny little bit of advantage on me. And it was hectic. But I don't set that as the standard now and carry that forwards and future cast that as saying if every session isn't like this, it'll suck. That's what most people do. People earn $1,000 in a day and they go, I'm just going to continue to do this ad infinitum. I'll earn $365,000 this year. And then the next day they earn $20 and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Why? And you're like, because it doesn't work like that. Set the standard that you will earn $20 every single day. And then when you earn 1,000, it'll be great. But when you earn 20 again, it won't be disappointing because you expected that.
Which is a completely different thing than setting your own standard for what you believe you are capable of as well. You can set a different standard for outcomes in terms like of the situations, but you can still hold yourself to a higher standard and keep that as your foundation.
Well, holding yourself to a higher standard is separated from outcome.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Because if I gave it everything and I don't get the shiny thing, then I can give a fuck. Couldn't care less. And that's my standard. So whether I win or I lose, if I won and I didn't give my best, I don't feel like I won. So if I made $100 million and I had to cheat and lie and steal and fuck people over to get it, it's not worth it. I got the shiny thing. Well, yay.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not worth it.
That's such a powerful mindset, dude. I don't know if many people have that mindset at all on this planet. I think the shiny object is the thing that everyone is chasing.
Yeah.
I think it is for me. If I think deep enough, I think I'm chasing the shiny object no matter what that thing is.
Well, you are, but you're only chasing that shiny object insofar as that you gain access to the feeling you know it will give you. Like, the people who have the most that I've been around are devoid of that because they're going to do what they need to do regardless of whether they have what they want to have or not because they know it's going to come anyway and it kind of becomes this automated process. Like, I can lift weights and eat food and know that I'm going to look the same basically, and I'm not resting my laurels on how lean I look one day and how not lean I look the other day because I know it changes and I have a completely reasonable expectation of how that's going to go. So I don't diet down if I fucking look fat and I don't diet up if I look lean. I don't give a fuck. This is just, the outcome is irrelevant because the standard is that I consistently upkeep my body at a good rate. And that's like the same in business with like money or cars or watches or whatever the fuck else, is that most people know that this is a good way to explain it actually without rambling. People always ask billionaires why they continue to earn money if they've got $1 billion. They've got more money than 100 lifetimes, 1,000 lifetimes. You spend $1 million a year 1,000 times and you just run out. But it's 1,000 years, so you're dead. And they go, why the fuck do you keep earning money? It's because it's not about that. It's not about the object to them. Like, Steve Jobs wanted to create fucking phenomenal devices that were in every house. Or Bill Gates wanted computers in every room. Or whatever the product label is for that. Jeff Bezos wanted books to be available really easily and accessible. Those sorts of things. Elon Musk wants the renewable energy to be the future of vehicles, whatever else. And dismantle all the conspiratorial elements of all those business, but whatever. that's their vision. That's the enemy that they're fighting against, or their motivation and stuff like that. And they completely, it's devoid of outcome, so that when it gets really difficult, they'll do it anyway. And when it gets really good, they'll do it anyway. So it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, so the enemy in their situation is not achieving that goal. It's almost their enemy.
Well, the enemy is the opposite to their vision.
Yeah.
Whatever their vision was, the enemy is the opposing to that vision. And it could be anything, really. Elon Musk's enemy is his dad, I'm pretty sure. I think that Patrick Bet-David did like a deep study on him, and his dad was a fucking asshole. And even my old man's dad told him he was stupid for ever thinking about becoming a millionaire, because he couldn't do it. He was smarter than him. And he's like, if I can't do it, I'm smarter than you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And in some sense, I took that on as well, because I'm like, well, you failed. You didn't achieve the goal. I mean, like, he might have a couple million super, but no one really classes that as a fucking millionaire. Come on, let's be serious.
Yeah.
And in a sense, the only reason he had thought to tell me that story is because I needed to hear it. I'm like, well, all right, fuck your dad. I'm going to do it. And then you might not be the one that did it, but you were the one who produced the one that did it. And then it's a really good story, or metaphor, sorry, that not mine personally, the guy telling this story, he goes, my dad used to get, so my granddad used to walk to work. My dad used to get the bus. I drive a Cadillac. Son drives a Merc. His son will drive a Ferrari. His son will be back to the walk.
Yeah.
He'll be walking again.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of it in that timeline as well. Like, my dad has done okay for himself. He's not done anything crazy by any means. I've definitely surpassed him at his age by a fucking massive margin. And for me, it still is something that I think about. I'm like, well, his dad never supported him. Mine was pretty good. Not perfect, but I didn't expect him to be perfect. But that's like a common enemy. And it could be anything. You can draw it from anywhere. The book is really good at illustrating how you find them. I had an enemy for a long time in rugby league. It was a coach that I used to have, Jai. And he told us when we were 14, he goes, you're either going to be watching rugby league on TV or you're going to be playing it. That's it. He was right. He was a cunt about it. It's just true.
Yeah.
To a bunch of 14-year-olds, you're like, cunt, relax. Like, fuck, okay. Yeah. But that pushed me more than I would have liked to admitted, rather than my own self-belief. I'm like, fuck this cunt.
Yeah.
Who the fuck do you think you are? And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, fuck this guy. I'm going to train hard in it. And it wasn't something I even brought up daily at all, or weekly, or monthly, maybe. Maybe for the first 6 months, I would have thought about it much more often. And I only thought about it the other day. And I was like, yeah, I went further than 99% of the people that were at that school in my year below, year above, and same year. And it probably was because of that.
Yeah.
And so for me to use that as an example now for the reason I'm good at jiu-jitsu doesn't make sense, because he didn't tell me I wasn't going to be good at jiu-jitsu. But there was heaps of cunts being like, well, you're only good because you're big. And I'm like, all right, okay. Well, you're going to get smashed at ADCC. Okay, all right. Yeah. Fuck you. I'm going to show you, cunt.
Yeah. And
that's like, you don't take it on and you don't take it personally, but you're like, all right, we'll see. Everyone loves an underdog story. And not that I really am one in Australia. Not that it really matters. But everyone loves that story of overcoming adversity, or changing the crowd, and you kind of win them and get them on your side and all that sort of stuff. And it's the age-old story in a bunch of movies. And I think about that a lot. And it's because really, my sport is very boring. It's just very boring. It's for the layman. I find it absolutely fascinating, which is why I'm good at it. Again, contrary to public opinion, it's not just steroids. Steroids help, but I'm very fascinated with the sport. But it's very boring rocking up to training every day and working on things that are going to make you better. And sometimes you really don't fucking want to work on them. Sometimes you want to play with a fun, shiny object like wrestling. I love wrestling. It's one of my favorite aspects of the sport. But if I just wrestle, I won't have a good guard. And if I don't have a good guard, I'm going to get passed. If I get passed, I get scored on. If I get scored on, I lose. Don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to eat shit, and you got to get an appetite for eating shit. And if you eat shit long enough, you get a decent guard where you can use it, and it's now as fun as you find wrestling. And it doesn't matter if your natural proclivity is towards one or the other, but it means that you could find satisfaction in all of them, no matter how difficult it is at the start. Like, colloquially, guard play is probably the hardest thing to achieve in the sport, especially if you're big, because you're not flexible. There's these fucking retards in the sport that can bring their knees behind their head, and it's just impossible to make any moves on them because they can just keep their legs behind there. There's no way you can get in that space. Whereas for me, I look like a fucking turtle on my back. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't have a natural proclivity towards learning it. And it's not obvious to you either, because in rugby league, especially with my history, getting pinned on your back is the worst thing that can happen, especially with the ball. 'Cause you're slow to get up and it takes you forever, and play the ball speed is a big impact of the game, a big part of the game. And I was like, why the fuck am I going on my back? That doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. So I had like all these things around it. And then I was like, no, you need to do it. You need to get good at it. And now I'm like half competent at it. I'll still say I suck because I fucking just see it that way.
Yeah.
And other people could be like, oh, you're doing small guy stuff at a big guy size. Like, cool, whatever. I don't need your validation anyway. But whether you have a natural proclivity to it or not, you still have to do it. You still have to push shit uphill, and you still are going to continue to do it no matter what.
With you did mention ADCC and how you went this year. I have to say, with trials, congratulations. I haven't even given you that yet. I don't even know if I congratulated on the year you had. It was a phenomenal year.
Yeah, maybe.
In case I didn't, I'll just say it now. How long until the ADCC this year?
August.
August. Okay.
August 17, 18, I think.
Where was it? Last year you went to America for it?
Yeah, it was August last year too. September last year.
Yeah, was it America last year? Same again this year?
Vegas, yeah.
In Vegas again.
Yeah.
And I was curious as well, Singapore was where you had the trials this year?
Singapore's trials.
Same as again last year?
No, it was in Blacktown last year.
Okay.
Yeah, because of COVID kind of fucked it up. So it's meant to be 2 years on. 2 years ADCC is meant to be. 2019 was the last one before the 2022 season. But COVID fucked all that up and you couldn't make it happen. So they bumped it forwards. And that meant trials for us and the majority of the other countries were in the same year. So it was like bang, bang. So usually it's you qualify the year before and then you compete the year after.
Yeah.
You qualify the year before, compete the year after. Qualify the year before, compete the year after.
Okay, that's cool. So how would anyone get themselves into being in a position where they can at least get to trials? Like, do you have to go through certain different events or challenges, or do you just
sign up
and you're good
sign
to go?
up. Trials has no barrier to entry apart from maybe it's in a country you can't afford to go to.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. Yeah, because we're in Asia and Australasia. So it could be in Australia, could be New Zealand, could be Singapore, South Korea, Japan, Kazakhstan. Could be any one of those countries in that region, which is cool because I'm basically forced to go see the world.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be anywhere in those countries. And then ADCC is typically going to be in Vegas. Venues are good. Traveling there is good. Hotels are cheap. There's a bunch of admin stuff that suits that. And it's a big spectacle and everything like that. So it's good.
Yeah, that's cool. Just looking at your clips and your Instagram over the last year, it's from the outside looking in, it's a dominating sport you're upholding, you know what I mean? It doesn't look like there's much challenge. From your perspective, was there any challenges at all along the way with competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. I give all the flowers to my competitors. Like, someone said this to me not long ago, and they said, it's actually, when you think about it properly, you're the one who's taking the most risk because you're the one that's meant to win. You're the biggest. You're the best, at least for the majority of the competitors. And if they don't have anything to lose, because if they lose, it was expected. If you win...
Oh, dude, I have to say that. I agree with that.
If you win, it was expected. So if you lose, oh my God.
It looks like a challenge if you can take down Josh. That's what it looks like.
Well, exactly right. Fucking have fun with that.
Yeah.
Shan't be taken down. It's not going to happen. I'll fucking die fighting. But yeah, there's absolutely... You have to give them a respect because they're the ones that are training and that they may be training as hard as you. You'll never know. And they might know something that you don't or a move that you don't know. So you always have to be aware of that. And yeah, you have to respect every single other person because I know what they're going through. They've trained enough to be able to compete, to put their hat in the ring and to go and fucking do it. And whether I think that I'm going to win or I think I'm going to lose is irrelevant because it's just my skills versus their skills. And that's all it comes down to. So there's challenges in each and every single match. Some people are very difficult to do things to because they refuse to move forwards. Some people are the opposite of that. They're difficult to deal with because they're always in your face. Some people are strong, some people are fast, some people are agile, some people have very flexible guards, and some people have not very flexible guards. And the challenge is not really the person across from you. It's the tactics that they employ to negate you doing from what you want to do. So if you're versing somebody to have a really good aspect of their game, you're going to try and steer them away from that. And if they have a really poor aspect of the game, you're going to try and steer them towards that, to make that decision, to capitalize on that. So I don't even look at them, it's going to sound really fucked up, I don't even look at them as people. But I try and like nameless, faceless, what are their attributes? What are their skills? What are they presenting me? What problem and puzzle am I trying to solve? One guy might be super athletic and really hard to get a hold of. So it's not that I don't know how to take him down. It's that I do know how to take him down, but there's going to be an impediment between me taking him down and getting a hold of him is going to be the biggest impediment there. So my real focus is just getting attached. And that might open me up for opportunities for him, because I might overreach and then I can get thrown and whatever else. So it's a very interesting part of the sport that I find is just the puzzle solving aspect. And they're all unique challenges. Some of them in a tournament fashion, you don't know who they are. You've never seen them compete before. So they present a mystery box, a complete unknown opportunity. And it's all difficult. Like whether you make it look easy or you make it look hard, it's still hard. And yeah, it would be very unfair of me to say that they weren't challenging matches. I also have the perspective as well that I don't know one single challenging match that is above the rest.
Okay.
As well.
I was actually curious about that as well.
Yeah, I don't really I don't order them hierarchically in position of difficulty because I think they're all difficult for their own intricate reasons. And it's kind of hard to compare apples to oranges. It doesn't really make sense. Like if this guy was really difficult to pass or this guy's really difficult to take down, both of those are difficult. It doesn't mean it was more difficult than the other. Maybe you had more success taking them down or less success passing them or vice versa. But they have their own elements of difficulty regardless.
Yeah, because of the fact that you're not looking at you versus them, you're looking at your game versus their game.
Exactly. Yeah. Their skills versus my skills.
Yeah, so it's just the same difficulty level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good. That's a good, honest answer. Before you mentioned the story about your father and his father before him, and it reminded me of a segment on the Betar project where you were speaking about your grandfather and the experience you had.
Oh yeah, when I ate a bunch of mushrooms
and all that stuff. I wondering if it was the same grandfather that get stuck. Was it?
No, that was the other side.
Other side.
It was my mum's dad's dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't go into the whole story because it was on someone else's podcast. So if anyone does want to hear it, there is a link in the description for that. But you also mentioned that you do believe in an afterlife because of that experience, and I did say we'd get a little bit spiritual along here. I want to know where does your belief in that come from? Like, why would you necessarily believe in an afterlife without the proof that you have ever been there, or do you have a proof of it?
Yeah, I don't need like physical evidential proof for anything, because again, I have no confirmation that I've ever figured anything out ever. So I don't know that I'm right. I don't care.
Well, that's the beauty in the word belief.
Well, I don't know I don't know if that's going to be true or not. I don't give a fuck because the way that I'm using it is a beneficial heuristic for life that makes sense to me to believe that we're souls that are operating meat suits that exist dimensionally, and our whole guided purpose of being here is to come down and incarnate as a human with none of the skills, none of the abilities, none of the wisdom, none of the knowledge, none of the help whatsoever. You're starting GTA 5 from scratch. You got no money, no car, no fucking wallet, no nothing, no house. And you got to work your way through the game and remember what your soul intrinsically already knows.
Good. Fuck, I love the way you said that.
Yeah. So you gamify it, and that's how I see it. And you already know it. It's just the uncovering process. I don't know anything you don't know. I've just become aware of it. That's all it is. And when you get into the conspiracy theories, spoiler alerts, actually, that's what people who are controlling everything are doing a really good job at trying to negate, because then the whole system evaporates.
Yeah. They're suppressing the people becoming aware.
Everything that exists right now only exists for complicity that exists. And as soon as the complicity is gone, it no longer exists. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. The only reason you can claim ownership to this house because there's a piece of paper that says you own it. It's just part of the system. What if I come in here and fucking take it? You know what I mean? It's like, to use an extreme example, which is mainly because I've been watching Vikings recently and they just take everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you come down with none of the experience, none of the lessons, none of the memory from the previous incarnations. And the game is to uncover all the stuff that's inside you that was already there. And that's easier said than done, because everybody gets confused, because this whole existence is an inverted world. Everything you think that it is inverted. People think that this is solid. It's not. It's fucking atoms that are vibrating to appear solid, that are cosmically connected, or however the fuck it works. I don't even know how it works.
Yeah.
Physics says that this feels solid to me based on my 5 sense experience of the world, and that it's vibrating at a rapid enough pace to appear that way to me. But if you look at this in a microscope, you can see atoms, neutrons, protons, nucleus, all these things. You're like, oh, well, it's 99% space. So then why the fuck does it look solid to me? And it starts to get the gears working. And then you think about it like that. You're like, oh, okay, so what is all this? What is reality? And you think about it, you're like, well, it's a big game where we have to learn all these lessons and figure out all these things that we otherwise would know if we'd retained all that memory. And whether you get to that or not, like whether you get to the end or not, determines whether you come back
Okay, that's a mad theory.
and start again.
Yeah, yeah.
And the awakening or ascension or
Enlightenment.
unveiling or enlightenment or anything like that is just varied degrees of the proximity of how close you get to the end, where you recognize that it's all bullshit. It's not all bullshit. The 3D realm is important. It's what we use to be able to go to the next one. And again, this is all my belief. If you believe anything else, that's up to you. Fine, whatever. I just find this interesting. And the golden rule, at least to me, seems to be that you are an infinitesimally small part, but a part nonetheless of the infinite creation of the divine. So you and I are split out of the whole into the many. And we're only doing that because if you were the whole and you're just like pure light, pure awareness, whatever you want to call it, God, Brahma, Vishnu, Tao, whatever, it's very boring. You know the outcome. That's it. This is it. This is all you. And this is it. This is all it ever will be. And you know for eternity that'll be it. You're the only thing that exists. So like, fuck this. I want to play a game and I want to know how it's not going to work out. So I want to bring this element in. And this was the whole story of the knowledge of good and evil from the tree, eating the apple.
Yeah, forbidden fruit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in the Garden of Eden, everything's fucking hectic. You're like, oh, I'm bored of this in fucking 3 days' time. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Let's fucking change it up a little bit. Let's throw some unknown into the mix. So it split itself from the one into the many, only to experience itself through all the myriad of experiences. Because if you wanted to play a game and you were the one player, wouldn't you want to go through every single lived experience you possibly could?
100%.
I would want to.
Without
I want to
the
know
knowledge that you were the one.
exactly. I want to know what it's like to be a fucking space, an astronaut, or a fighter pilot on a jet, or a deep submarine operator, or a race car driver, or a quarterback in the NFL, or let your imagination
And to
run
be honest,
wild.
you kind of want to eventually get to a stage where, right, what's the bad shit that can happen too? You're going to have to learn about all the bad possibilities. You have to be every junkie in the gutter. You're going to have to be every single possible outcome.
What if I'm a kid with cancer and I die in the womb?
Yeah.
Or can you even develop cancer in the womb? Maybe you can, maybe you
Possibly,
can't. I don't know. See, another thing, I don't know. It's great. I'll look that up after. Yeah, people got fucking mad at that because they're like, oh, you can only be happy because kids have cancer. And I'm like, you're just missing the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you want to experience as many things as it's totally possible, only so that you could reconnect back to the one with all that experience. And that's kind of the idea. And the idea is that you're the one that's creating all of it. So it's all your responsibility and you're divinely powerful and whatever else. And the only reason you're here is to gather up as much experience of that as possible. So it's not like how much did I win or how many material things did I collect or anything like that. It's just gain as many experiences as possible. And that to me makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense that the golden rule then becomes, to go back to that, is because you are the one, you're the one that's been split off into the many only come back to one. So technically you are God. And people fucking hate listening to this because you're like, oh, you got a God complex, fuck, whatever. I don't think I am God.
I just know that I am. Yeah.
I just
I
know
share
that
the same
I just know that I'm a part of it,
Yeah,
and I get to be a part of this because I am a part of it. Because if I wasn't here, how would you delineate between the environment being here and me being here? You wouldn't be able to, because it would all be environment. So therefore, I have to be a part of it, because otherwise nothing would exist.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be able to separate it. If there would be no black, there would be no white, because you'd have nothing to compare it to. So there must be anyway. So you are the one, which means you're the one that's designed this whole thing, which means there's really, it's all for a purpose. It's all for a reason. It all means something. It all carries validity based on the fact that you're going through it. And the faster you can remember that, the faster you can start to get comfortable with the fact that whatever you're going through right now is whatever you're meant to be going through, to propagate a specific lesson so that you could gain some experience, so that you could move forwards, gaining more experience. And it kind of sounds like, well, what's the point of that? It's like, I just told you the point. The point is to gather as many things as you possibly can experience-wise so that you could change your perspective, increase your awareness, help other people, do all that sort of thing, help other people get to their own version. So you could transmute these worldly pains into a more enlightened experience. And not everybody can get to that sort of thing. So the golden rule is love thy neighbor as thyself, because really, if we're both parts of the whole, that means we're the same. We just look different.
Yeah.
Extrinsically, couldn't be more different. Intrinsically, couldn't be more the same. Like whatever you want to call it, consciousness or soul or whatever else. And so that's kind of how I try and govern my decision-making skills. Is like, I have the opportunity presented to me to fuck somebody over. I'm not going to do it, because then I'll be just fucking myself over, because that reciprocal energy will come back to me no matter what. This is what people call karma, is like you're doing. I heard an interesting definition of karma is that it's like it will be what will happen after the action. So my phone's karma is that I drop it, and that it landing there was its karma.
Yeah.
So if you're a fucking asshole, well then asshole things are going to happen to you. Yeah. It's not like what goes around comes around. It's like whatever you do will be the consequence of your doing.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a nice perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. So if you treat people exactly the way that you want to be treated, and you're not a fuckwit on purpose, like you can joke around and talk shit to your mates and do whatever, but you're doing that with jest, and everybody knows the intent. When someone's making fun of you and they're doing it because they hate you, you're like, oh, you're a dickhead. I'm just stay away from you.
Yeah.
If someone's making fun of you and they're doing it for jest or joking, it's lighthearted and it's funny. So it doesn't mean that you completely avoid all negative things, but it just means that you don't be a cunt to people on purpose.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like if you wanted to not listen to any of that, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Just treat people the way that you would like to be treated. And that's a really good philosophy for life in general. It's a really good philosophy for business, because if I would put myself in the customer's shoes of how I would like to be treated if I was a customer to that business,
and it's self-beneficial,
and I reciprocate that, and I go, oh, well, I would want to give them the best experience possible, so they would tell as many people as possible what they learnt here, so they could share that message and they could propagate that. And I would make sure the product was actually worth it and beneficial and helpful and did what it said it did and designed that way only so that it would be beneficial for that person, because that's what I would want if I was buying it.
Yeah.
So then you look at things through that lens. Like, I wouldn't come here hungover because it'd be a shit conversation. Because if I was a podcast host, I'd fucking hate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you go through it and you think about it and you go, oh, well, that makes so much fucking sense. And then what happens is, in my experience, is that you shed this heaviness of existence. You actually start to become lighter. It's like the scales of Anubis. You weigh the heart on the side, and if it's light as a feather. You shed this heaviness of existence where there's not this weight, this overbearing existential dredge that sits on top of you, because you're not feeding it. You're not feeding into this negativity and this bullshit and this sadism and this nihilistic black pill fucking nothing means anything crap. Because really, it would have been far more convenient for nothing to exist at all. When you think about it, far more convenient. Just never turn the lights on. But we are here, so there has to be a reason.
Yeah, of course.
There has to be.
Yeah.
Nothing happens by accident, luck, or coincidence. It just doesn't. So why are you here? Has to be for a reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know. You don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm here. Based on that last spiel, I've probably got a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Just not be a fuckwit and actually be a leading, shining example to be able to show those people around you that that's the way that you should be operating, and that's where you can be operating if you are a good person. I don't think being a good person is like the be-all, end-all definitive metric of whether you've had a fulfilled life or not. I think it's gaining as much experience as possible. And when you put it like that, it's not avoid failure and seek success, because they're both experiences. Yeah. So now you're not defining things by the end terms. Because even if I fail and I learn things from it, I win. And even if I succeed and I don't learn anything, I lose. So really, you can win in the lose and lose in the win. And this is the whole
yin
yang thing. What most people don't recognize about the yin yang thing is that there is a common line in the middle. That's the middle way. That's Taoism. That's what we're looking towards. We're not looking towards black and white and black. We're looking towards the middle way that unites both of them.
And that is experience. It's funny because I think we share a very, very similar belief, if not almost identical, in a fact of passing on from this life to go back into a pool of consciousness in which everyone shares. And my belief is that you have not just a reflection on the life you live, but a shared reflection of everyone else who got to live at the same time, which is kind of like this one God being idea. And you get to feel the impacts of what your life was like on others, and you get to feel whether it was a good life or a bad life, which can leave people in the state of heaven or leave people in the state of hell to be able to come back and relive it again. It makes a lot of sense when you look at it the way you described it, where you're just living with all the information and you're becoming aware of the information as you go on, because it explains why we have all these beliefs and religions and mythologies of reincarnation and Buddhism and every type of Abrahamic religion, you know what I mean? Like, it's all getting towards this same end goal, which is the definitive consciousness, you know what I mean? It's a very, very similar belief, and I don't think I've heard anyone explain it as close to my own beliefs as possible. So it's cool that you look at it from that light. But in my head, it explains everything. It explains karma, as you said. It explains deja vu. It explains gut feelings. It explains intuitions. It explains all these things because you are aware of it all. You know what I mean? Sassy the Sasquatch is, if anyone hasn't watched it, please watch it. It's such a good cartoon version of that whole belief. It really is.
Yeah, there's another one that's shorter. It's called the egg theory.
Yeah.
I think it's like 10 minutes and it's basically the exact same thing. And
Yeah,
he's like,
cool.
oh, this is where I was from. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're going back? And he's like, oh, no.
Yeah, cool. I'll check that out.
It's good. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg theory. It's like, well, both.
Yeah, cool. I'll put a link in that description
Both.
as well for that one as well.
Yeah.
Well, a couple more questions I want to ask you too. If you have this pursuit in success of inside of jiu-jitsu, but the pursuit is the pursuit, you know what I mean? You're enjoying the journey. Is there an outcome that you're chasing towards inside of it?
I still want to be the best.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about recently as well, because I hold myself to an unprecedentedly high standard, and I don't know where that pursuit is going to get me. If I ever will be the best, I have no idea. And if it even matters, I don't know. But I lean more away from that side of thing, because I've had the idea for a long, long time that I want to pursue being the best at whatever I do. So I'm just going to do that no matter what field it's in anyway. And that will lead me where I need to go. And who knows, in the next 3 to 5 years, if I decide that it's all bullshit, the system's gross, I'm going to wear a tinfoil hat and become a reverend on a hill.
Yeah.
And I just fucking sell all my shit, buy a farm and fuck off. Okay. Whatever's in store.
Yeah.
But I think that open-mindedness and that receptivity to possibility is where you get all of the possibilities, because I'm open to them. Let's fucking have at it. I want to see what's going on, and whatever's going to give me the best experience, I will take. And I got a mate of mine who does some rehabilitation stuff that's kind of like not considered medical. He does a lot of like Tesla coil stuff and PMF therapy and all that sort of thing. And he said he was in a band. He still is in a band. And he said we could have made millions of dollars by selling ourselves out and like taking that money when it was on the table. And we never did. And he goes, I've never struggled for money. It's always been there when I've needed it. I've never had shitloads. But I have got, like, he was in a private bar with his mate who knew Jim Carrey.
Oh, wow.
And Jim Carrey rocked up. And he's like, oh, my God.
Wow.
I'm having drinks with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
He's had thousands of experiences like that. And he goes, I've never had money, crazy money, but I would not trade it. I would not trade $500 million for the shit that I've gone through.
Wow.
Not at all. And even my old mate, my best mate's old man, George, it's his 2-year anniversary on Sunday. He's passed away. And he never did either. He was living on the dole, doing whatever he needed to, financially horrible with money. But Zach, my best mate, is working on a movie at the moment. He's a camera grip. And John Ibrahim is the director or producer or whatever the fuck. He's the storyteller. I don't know what the show it is. And George used to be John's security guard in Sydney at the Cross, at one of his clubs he used to work at. And Zach walks up to him and he goes, hey, John, you don't know who I am, but I'm George Haniotis' son, the big Greek guy that used to be security guard. He goes, bro, George was the fucking best. And like immediately had that sort of connection. Really, really cool.
That is cool, yeah.
Really, really cool. And if Zach had chosen to decide to earn more money at another job that was less impactful, sure, he'd have more money. But he wouldn't have that experience of being able to talk to John. Like, where the fuck do you find that cunt?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that goes back into everything has a purpose, everything has a reason. There is no accident, no coincidences. Like, Zach's mum used to be a costume designer for movies before she went down a very horrible path. And she designed some of the costumes for like Star Wars 2. It was really cool. And they've always been like in and around the film industry and that sort of thing. And then a job present. I'm pretty sure this is the story. So his mate Ollie listened to a podcast that me and Zach did together on my old show. And then went, wow, that was really fucking cool. And then followed Zach and then started talking to him because he was in the army too. And then like 5 years go past and he goes, do you want a job? It's on the movie sets. And he's like, yeah, I want a job.
Wow.
I need a job. The army just like kicked me out because I wouldn't get vaccinated and all this other bullshit, politics crap. And he goes, yeah, I want to start making movies. So he's been a camera grip on Mad Max, that new Sydney Sweeney movie, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, Chick Flick 1.
Or whatever it is. He was working on that. He worked on The Office. Ricky Gervais has done an Office in Australia.
Wow.
And he's worked on that. And it was no coincidence because his mum used to be into film. And that would have been her dream before she had him. And then she's only supported his life by giving up what she wanted to do. It's all a choice. It's all a perspective. You don't have to give up your career for your kids whatsoever. But that was her decision, and she made that only so that later on in life, he could continue the journey.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
You hear stories like this, and you're like, who gives a fuck if you had $500,000 or not?
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I like nice shit. Don't get me wrong. But I will not trade that for experiences.
Yeah.
Not at all. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's cool. So then, would you say then you don't really have an end goal? Then there's nothing really as an end goal. Just the experience in itself.
My end goal is to leave nothing on the table. When I die, hopefully not soon. When I die, like one of my favorite quotes is this Hunter S. Thompson quote, and he goes, a paraphrase, but what is the point of arriving pristinely in a nice condition at the end? He goes, I want to skid across the finish line, thoroughly worn out and used up, with an emphatic bang saying, wow, what a ride. I don't want to arrive there safely. I don't want to arrive there neatly. I don't want to avoid scars and bumps and bruises and breaks and whatever. I don't want to avoid emotional turmoil. I don't want to avoid failure. I don't want to just seek the nice side of things because it's fickle and gross. I want to use up as much of this as possible and experience absolutely everything. Why not? What the fuck else are you going to do?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
Well,
sit and watch movies for 10 hours?
It kind of leads me to one more question. I was curious about what else would you do if you weren't so involved and in love with the sport that you're doing? It's a bit of a double-answered question as well, because it's also, has there been anything along the way that you thought, oh, I could have done that instead, but I've got my mind set on this?
Nah. I don't think like that. I don't think coulds, woulds, and shoulds. I don't think about things like that because I think it's brutally unhelpful. Because sure, if I had gone to the Melbourne Storm as was originally planned and not gone to the Raiders and really loved their system and their process, I'd be living in Melbourne playing first grade now. But then I probably would have got traded to another team or salary, blah 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 blah. Could be in another country. I don't know. It serves me no purpose to think coulds and woulds and shoulds.
Yeah, I'm not saying in a term of coulds, woulds, and shoulds. I'm thinking of a term just if I can relate it to my own experience. I have got things I'd like to achieve in my life, but I'm focusing on some things at the moment. If I was to go pursue them, then I would be giving up 100% focus and energy to the things I'm doing. So once I've achieved at least a level in which I feel like I'm proud of what I've done inside of this, then I'm happy to go do my other tasks afterwards. So I've still got things I would like to do. I'm just prioritizing doing some things first before I get to doing those things. Is there anything else in your life that you are interested in doing other than, say, for example, the world of Ju-Jitsu?
Look, contrary to popular belief, it's not the only thing I do.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, no. Not really. It's not the only thing I do. So I have many passions and many interests outside of the sport. And the sport's given me a lot. And I'm going to give back a lot to the sport. But the way that I've orientated all of my life is it's the continual expansion of who I am. And that doesn't matter what I do. Because I'm just going to continue to evolve and grow and expand. And wherever that leads me is wherever that leads me. So if I quit the sport in 3 years' time unexpectedly and go and live in a cave because I've let the aliens get to me, so fucking be it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think too long term in the future. I think that if I just continue to do the things I do on a day-to-day basis, I'll have everything I've ever wanted. And some. And I don't even know what I want yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I look at it this way. There's a certain amount of skills and habits and wisdom and experience that you need to do anything. And it's just attaining them that's the most important. And if that means you have to lose everything only so you can build the skill of resilience, by all means. Sure. So whether that comes from, I don't know what it comes from. But a good example of this is I had a partner before my current one, and it was a 5-year relationship, and I didn't think anything wrong of it whatsoever. She obviously did. She fucking left. But
exactly the same situation I was in.
Yeah. It was kind of like, well, what the fuck? What's going on here? And I had to lose everything. It was brutal. It fucking sucked. It sucked balls. And there was a couple of weeks there where I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't training properly, I couldn't get my thoughts straight, all that sort of stuff. Fucking brutal. And you eventually hit this stage where you're like, what have I learnt from this? You finally get to that stage. Some people it takes a lot longer than others. But for me, I learned quite quickly. And I was like, what have I learnt from this? It means that you have to have continual effort, continual growth in every single area. And it has to be everywhere. Because that relationship didn't grow the last 2-3 years that it was alive. And I didn't recognize it because I was so focused on everything else. And because I was so focused on everything else, I shut out all the other things. And at that point in time, it was money because I wasn't fucking making anything. It was bullshit. It wasn't bullshit. It was necessary. But it was such a detracting factor from everything else that I was like, no, you have to be holistically focused. Has to be, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work for health, wealth, and relationships. Can't just be money, can't just be health, can't just be relationships. Because if you spend all your money on your health, yeah, that's great, you'll live longer, but your quality of life will be shit because you're constantly stressed from where your next bill is going to come through and it's going to be too expensive. Or if you're constantly worried about money, you could have all the money in the world and have a heart attack. Or a family that fucking hates you because you're never there. And if you're only worried about relationships, the same two things apply. You could be fat as fuck, or you couldn't have money to support those relationships, so they end up fucking resenting you anyway. So you have to be dominant across every category. And that was a really good lesson for me that I learned from that, where everything had to be burnt to the ground for it to grow. So I don't fear those experiences anymore because it was necessary. Because every single thing in my life has gotten better since going through that. And I can't be convinced of otherwise.
Yeah, I agree as well. I don't think I figured it out as quickly as 3 weeks. Don't get me wrong, it probably took me about 6 months or a year to figure it out. But eventually I got to a point where I think the initial thing was another quote that I really like saying, true growth is when you realize you're tired of your own shit. You know, I think that's what led to my decipheration of what went wrong, what, you know what I mean? And I did work out a very similar thing in a sense where, all right, comfort is something that I never want to sit in. I never want to sit in comfort because I was comfortable in that relationship, which is what made me think, oh, there's no need for me to change it. Everything's good the way it is, and I'll just focus on other things. Since then, I've realized, like, no, it should never be comfortable inside of any job desire, any relationship, any pursuit, any form of progression at all. Never be comfortable. And it's funny because you came to a point in conclusion where it's like, if I lose everything, I'm fine. I can start again. And it made me think before when you were mentioning the fact that you're happy to end up becoming tinfoil hat wearing in the middle of a farm, you know? You have your pursuit and your dream and all this shit. I kind of think relationships are the same way in if you can come to terms with the fact that if you were to lose the relationship, everything would be fine. It makes the thing you're doing so much more meaningful, you know? When you don't depend on someone else being there in order for you to feel satisfied, the only reason you're with each other is because of choice, which is why you're so probably in love with the sport, because if you didn't have it, you'd also be completely fine doing anything else, which is, you know, more meaningful in itself.
Yeah, you're there because you want to be there.
Yeah, sum it all up. Yeah, because you want to be there. There's one more thing I had to ask you, and it's the more of a shout out to my mate Damo as well. We've been going back and forward for a long time, and me never being inside the sport of jiu-jitsu at all, I haven't got a fucking clue, all right? So trust me, I'm going to be wrong when I say this. And I'm also a very delusional person, all right? If I wanted to try and survive 1 minute against you compared to 10 seconds, is it the same difference? If we were in a situation of rolling with each other on the mat, is a 10-second outcome for a finish exactly the same as 1 minute because I have no chance of achieving either? Surviving 10 seconds or surviving 1 minute?
Yeah, I'd kill you inside 10 seconds every time.
Yeah, okay.
The time doesn't matter.
Okay.
You'd be dead.
Yeah, okay. So
It would take me probably about 5 seconds to put you to sleep.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
If
That's
we
crazy.
started, if we like did the whole slap bump thing and then we started, I'd be on your back and have a fully locked rear naked choking within 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then it would take you maybe 3 to pass out completely, of which then you can do whatever you want. I just throw you into a river. Something like that.
Yeah.
People are like, I'm glad you're aware of it because people are like blissfully ignorant about the power that you have over somebody that has no idea what you're going to do to them. And that's kind of like the Jordan Peterson thing is like you should be ultimately very dangerous and just never use it.
Yeah, it's the same. You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a
Yeah,
garden.
exactly right. Exactly right. And I always joke like I can't use my magical powers outside of Hogwarts. I never will.
Yeah.
This is banned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend that people try it. I recommend people get into it, not because they want to be the best or not because they, are inspired by my journey or whatever the fuck that means. I recommend they get into it to realize how physically incapable they actually are.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. It's like I am self-aware. I understand that your skill levels are not even on parallel inside of this thing. But I am so delusional in my belief that I feel like I can defend myself.
Well, that's the thing because you don't understand.
Because I don't understand.
Because you've told yourself, but you've only thought about it. You've never done it.
Yeah.
You can think about how it would be like to run a multi-8-figure business, but you've never done it before. So you have no idea what the stress is like. You're like, oh, I could do it. How do you know?
Yeah.
You've never done it.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu is the exact same thing. I had a conversation with a 16-year-old kid that I used to train at the gym, and he goes, I used to do boxing. I could take you. And I said, no, you couldn't. And he's like, fucking 60 kilos something. And he's like, yeah, I used to fight. I could take you. I was like, all right, put the weights down. And I'm like, I'm going to give you 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, what are we doing? I said, you punch me and I'll strangle you. They're the rules. And he goes, all right. So he threw a punch. I arm dragged him, went to his back and had him like almost going out until he tapped. I wasn't going to put him to sleep. He's a fucking client. But he goes, oh. I'm like, yeah, that's how quickly it can happen.
Yeah.
And you're just blissfully unaware. And it's not like this like tough guy thing. It's just that I've put in thousands of hours into learning how to do that against people who know how to defend.
Yeah.
You guys are civilians, basically.
Oh, apologies, the camera's died for everyone listening. But I would just like to say that I do believe you're all right, but I'm still in this self-delusion kind of way. So I just like to at least let my mate Damo get the satisfaction of one day just letting you tap me out. All right, I'm going to do my best to defend, but
You're allowed
I'd like
to be
that
wrong.
Opportunity.
You're allowed to be wrong.
I'd like that opportunity. All right, yeah,
I could shave it down to maybe 3 seconds. We could see what we can make happen.
yeah, sweet.
I'm quite creative.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm quite
I would
creative.
love, because trust me, jiu-jitsu is one of those things that's been on the back of my mind for years and years and years. And it's one of those things I mentioned to you before that once I'm done with my current pursuits, like say my career, for example, once I've achieved those goals, I'd love to give jiu-jitsu all my energy and shit. And I have fuck all experience. I've probably had maybe one session. I went to Western City Martial Arts once. And yeah, that's probably my only experience so far. So I'd just like to at least have some kind of feeling back on the mat again.
It is good.
So no better place to go than to go to the guy dominating.
Yeah, well, it's the best gym in the country for a reason. We can just continue to prove it again and again and again. It's not just me. If it was just me, it's like, all right, cool, he's a fucking freak athlete, whatever. But it's multiple of us that are continually excelling at the highest rate, and that's just a testament to Luke and the team and all the thought process and stuff that goes behind it. And you can't just be a fucking meathead and expect to win in a sport that requires your best. And that's why I continue to do it. It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, it's sick. It's mad, dude. I love your pursuit. I love your passion. I love your interest. It's not just your interest inside of jiu-jitsu that gets people interested in jiu-jitsu. It's your interest in having interest that gets people excited and motivated and uplifted. People take what you say and they apply it to anything else they do. So that's what I personally thank you for when it comes to your content.
It's still weird to me.
What's weird about it?
Still weird that noises out of my face make people feel things. It's just strange.
But have you ever experienced it from someone else? Has anyone else's passions about whatever they're interested in ever made you go,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, initially that was the only thing because I wasn't producing anything, and I was like, well, I have done the due diligence to learn shit over 13 years that people haven't committed to, and I could save them a lot of time just by diluting it for them. And if I find it useful now, then me 5 years ago would definitely find it useful. And there's fucking millions of me's five years ago.
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's like, well, why not fucking give them a leg up? Show them something that could change their perspective. And then as long as they act on it, they're good to go. Don't change your perspective and do nothing with it because then you basically did nothing anyway.
Yeah.
It fucking doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I did ask you earlier if you want to be a part of this little 10-minute Egypt section, so it's up to you again. I'll give you another offer.
Go for it.
Yeah, we'll go for it. All right, sweet. So for everyone listening, before I wrap up the end of the conversation that me and Josh are doing today, it's just to go down this little Egypt segment. And last week, if you weren't aware, I did start the journey off with a bit of the geography, the size, the impact, the history, and a couple of the discoveries that were taking place so far. And I did mention that this week would be the Great Pyramid of Giza. Do you have any interest, Josh, in Egypt at all? Ancient Egypt?
I know a lot about the pyramid.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, then most of this might not come as news or information to you. It's just more of an overview and a statement on what the Great Pyramids are and things like that. So,
let rip.
all right, cool. So for everyone who doesn't know, the Great Pyramid of Giza is the largest of all the Egyptian pyramids. And a little bit of research told me that there's around about 118 to some people say 140 pyramids that do live inside of ancient Egypt. It served as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, which I did mention last week about the Khufu ship, his solar bark, which was named after him. So if you haven't heard that, please go back and listen to that, and the pharaoh of Khufu. But traditionally, experts state that the pyramid was built over around 27 years while Khufu was alive. Personally, I can't agree with 27 years at all. Do you have any idea of how long you think it could have been built? My guess is tens of thousands, if anything.
Tens of thousands of years it took them?
Tens of thousands, dude.
Well, it depends on who you reckon built it.
I reckon it was built by generations and generations of people. I reckon Khufu just came past and slapped his name on the front of it.
Slaves didn't do it.
You don't reckon slaves did it? Now we're getting saucy.
Slaves did not build it
Yeah.
whatsoever. The sheer mathematical precision of the pyramid is fucking disgusting. It does not make sense. If you multiply the base, the width of the base by 4,200, which is the amount of, I think it's seconds, hours, and minutes in a day. You times all those together. You multiply that by 4,200. You get the exact circumference of the Earth.
Yeah.
And then for the whatever this is, not the base, but whatever the peak is,
You can almost call it the radius because if you can compare it to a circle. it's
something
the
like
radius,
that.
yeah.
I think one of them you get the speed of light. when you multiply that out.
Yeah, I got a couple of these facts in there too. They're crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's like it's within 1/100th of a millionth of an inch precise.
Yeah.
Slaves didn't build it.
Yeah, all right, cool. Well, I'm glad you bring that up because later on throughout the year of 2024, we'll get to the whole conspiracy with aliens and the Anunnaki and all these other things that could have come into play. For now, I'm just trying to go down the current narrative.
No, we've ruined that.
Just deciphering it as I go. But as I said, they reckon it only took about 27 years in order to build Khufu's Great Pyramid in the early 26th century. As I said, I think that's pretty crazy. 3,500 years ago is when abouts it was built. I didn't exactly write down the date, so what would that be like? It must have been 4,500 years ago. 3,500 BC was the year it was built, 4,500 years ago. The Great Pyramid consists of over 2.3 million large carved stones, weighing roughly 6 million tons in total. It measures 138 meters tall, which is 4 meters taller than the Sydney Harbour Bridge from sea level. So again, if you're standing at sea level looking up at the top of the Harbour Bridge, including the flag on top, it's taller than that. And again, they believe that was built by slaves, which is pretty hard to wrap your head around. The pyramid used to have an extra 8 meters of height when it was covered in a smooth white limestone. Experts believe that an earthquake did break all that away around the year 1303, and since then it has been used and taken away by all the native people around Egypt to build their fortresses, their mosques, their other temples and things like that along the years. A majority of the stones, out of the 2.3 million of the large ones, were carved and sourced from local surrounding areas, but limestone and granite blocks were transported via boats down the Nile River from places in Egypt like Tura and Aswan. I think I'm saying that right. And they believe 600,000 stones were transported weighing 70 tons each. 600,000 of them. So, again, if we're going to believe slaves did it, that's why I'm going down the road of 10,000 years. A minimum of 10,000 years.
They didn't do it.
An average shipping container in Australia can hold around 25 tons of product. So they were transporting stones 2 to 3 times bigger than a fully weighted shipping container over a distance from Tura to Aswan, which is 885 kilometres. For reference, that's like travelling from the centre of Sydney to the capital of Queensland, which is Brisbane. That's how far along they took these distances. Now, 600,000 of those stones, as I said, pretty crazy. How they were able to transport, let alone construct such a monumental large projects, baffles scientists even today, and they theorise that we might not even be able to possibly create such structures with today's technology. As mentioned before, the pyramid is believed to be constructed just for a tomb for the pharaoh of Khufu, although 3 chambers have been discovered inside of it so far, and one of them in which was carved out of the bedrock that sits underneath the pyramid, which is kind of what leads me to believe that another pharaoh just came and built a little bit more on top of it, and another one a bit more on top of that, because they've found extra chambers that didn't include for, Pharaoh Khufu's descendants and queens and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, it wasn't a tomb either.
You don't reckon it was a tomb? Yeah.
No.
What do you reckon it was built for then?
It is a energy conductor.
I've heard that theory, which is pretty sourceable. Do you believe in the fact that they had the water running between it to create current and shit like that as well?
Yeah, there's like electrodes on the wall that have been used.
I did not know that.
Up the channels. Cool. Yeah, Robert Edward Grant is the leading guy that I look to for pyramid stuff, and he's spent heaps of nights there, and he's got a lot of information around it. He's a mathematician or a polymath, and a lot of the stuff that he pulls together, insane. Even the difference between the Great Pyramid and the other pyramids, they all have different slope angles that all equal some fucking Bohr's number or whatever it is. They're all mathematically perfect.
Yeah.
And the constant across all of them, across all cultures, across all continents.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
That's the crazy part. It's not just taking place in ancient Egypt. It's happening in parts of the world which they weren't known to have known about each other.
Well, the energetics of when you go there, I've never been there, but was enough to stop Alexander the Great conquering.
I did not know that.
Spent a night in the tomb. Come out, never waged warfare ever again.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
And Pythagoras has done the same thing. And I don't remember what his story was specifically, but he spent a night in the Great Pyramid as well. And a lot of big leaders over time have done that. Wow. But yeah, Alexander the Great went there, stayed there one night, gave up everything the day after.
Yeah, the same for me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good.
Yeah, wow. Damn, that's crazy. Well, a couple of the crazy facts about it, if we're going to get to all the mathematical exacts about it, is the latitude of the pyramid is actually located as an exact location of 2.9 9814678 degrees north. All right, that's just the numerology for it. And the speed of light, when measured in a vacuum, meaning that speed of light with no external forces opposing it, is 299,792,458 meters per second. So the latitude and longitude, which was invented around the year 300 BC, thousands and thousands of years later, and the speed of light, which was not discovered until recently in 1676, coincidentally, the location of the pyramid and the speed of light are the exact same number down to the 9th degree. Coincidence? You know what I mean? The 9th degree. I tried to do the maths and look it up online to see what the actual probability of having that. It's fucking way too complicated. I wasn't able to, but it's basically one number out of 900 million different numbers.
Yeah, it's in the
numerical
trillions.
System. Yeah. You have to, times that by itself, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's in like stupid numbers.
Yeah, fucking
Quadrillions probably.
insane. So the Great Pyramid is facing true north, and it's only 3/6 of a degree off from being out from 100% perfectly, from being 100% accurate to the 36th of a degree. So in parallel, it's actually exactly facing north, south, east, and west. And the compass itself wasn't believed to be invented until the year 206 BC in China, and their pyramids were built 2,300 years before that. So they're facing exactly north, south, east, and west. And if you compare the perimeter of the pyramid's distance to its height, meaning you take the measurement of the four sides of the pyramid and compare that to the measurement from the bottom to the top, it's an exact ratio of 6.3. The Earth's distance of perimeter, meaning the circumference compared to the distance from center to the North Pole, has a radius of exactly 6.3. So the distance around the Earth is 6 times bigger from the height from the center, which is exactly the same as a pyramid. So the pyramid is an exact scale of a replica to the Earth. You know what I mean? Height, the circumference versus the height, which is fucking incredible. It's exactly a scale of the Earth in size proportion.
They're also the most endurable object. The
Endurable
shape.
as in like structurally integrity, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason that they believe that is because it's to convey lost information. It can never be destroyed.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's you're saying that's why they built it in the shape of the pyramid to keep.
Well, that's kind of the
there.
idea of the cataclysms and stuff, that every 200 something years everything is fucking reset, or every 6,000 years or whatever it is, and they're like, well, we're gonna have to store some information somehow. Scrolls don't work, all that sort of stuff doesn't work. We'll build this big fucking thing. We'll make sure it's indestructible, or at least the most we can, and so that it stands the test of time to be able to teach you all the information that you need, and it'll have everything in it.
Yeah. Fucking crazy, dude. The funny thing is the hieroglyphs inside the pyramids in ancient Egypt, not just inside the pyramids themselves, but they have depictions of every aspect of life, from society, culture, to the beliefs. But there's never been one single depiction on how the pyramids were built. You know what I mean? Which again leads me to my belief, dude. It wasn't the guys who did the hieroglyphs who built the pyramids.
There's also watches and computers.
Is there really?
That can be seen in the hieroglyphs. Yep.
Damn. That's crazy. I'm excited to get to that. I'll look that up and keep that for a future episode. There is a million more crazy facts about the pyramid when it comes, and I am kind of just reaching for straws towards the end of this segment, but all the coincidences and things that you mentioned, like watches and tablets and all these other theories about the currents that ran through creating electricity and the Anunnaki, these are all things that I'm going to get at later on in the year. I just thought for now I'd just open everyone's mind, if you haven't been aware, to the fact that the pyramid was a phenomenal construct that we still can't wrap our heads around today. Now, that's all for this week on the section of Egypt. Next week, I'll be talking about the tomb of Tutankhamun and his rule over Egypt. Tutankhamun so far has been my second favourite pharaoh, so please stay tuned for the discovery of Tomb Tutankhamun. Yeah. Have you put many hours into researching Egypt, or is it just like a certain thing that pops up here and there?
Not really. I question everything.
Okay.
So if I have a faint interest in something, I'll watch like 3 hours of video on it and then make up a decision of whether it's useful to continue going down that path and then fuck it off or just continue.
Yeah, cool. I've found so far since doing this, I think it's probably been the most interesting thing I've learned to discover through my existence.
Just being interested in things altogether.
Yeah, what a gift, eh?
Yeah, I want to know how things work.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah. Before I wrap this up, I'd like to say that you did mention your online course, and I would like to know, like everyone listening, exactly what is it that the course offers? What can people expect when they sign up for your current course? White to brown, is that what you call it? White to brown in 23 months?
That's the running name for it. When I get my black belt, I'm going to have to fucking make up some shit because it's just, I shot myself in the foot. But anyway.
Yeah.
If you want to get better at jiu-jitsu at an accelerated rate, It's one of the only services in the world that has one-to-one access to an ADCC level competitor who is actually actively doing what they say they are fucking doing. Not that most people who are ADCC level competitors are doing that, but they're not giving you an inside look into thoughts, programs, processes, how to define the sport, how to think about moves, tactics, skills, techniques. The technique is probably one of the smallest parts of it, to be completely honest. But it is the only one in the world who's run by a former professional athlete and a former personal trainer who has knowledge, wisdom, skills, and experience in many other assets to be able to help you achieve the same goal that they want to. So really, if you want it, you can have it, but you can't get it anywhere else. So.
Yeah, it's dope. Do you run it through Discord? What's the platform you use in order to
Telegram.
run it? Telegram.
Fuck Discord. Tried to use it, couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
interest.
I'm not even a fan of joining Discords, bro. I can't handle it.
No interest.
Yeah, so I'm
No,
so glad
it's just
you
like
stayed.
Reddit. It's a bunch of incel fucking idiots.
Yeah, I'm glad you stayed away from Discord.
Oof.
How much does it cost and for things like
It's
that?
$44 US a month. You can cancel anytime you want. I don't know why you'd want to, because it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just run it as a monthly service, so people can come in, come out as much as they please. They can stay for. I've had people since the jump. I've had people sign up and fucking cancel in 2 days because I don't know if they thought it was going to be different or whatever the fuck their idea was. But yeah, I'm not married to the outcome. So if they want to learn and get better, they know where to find me. If they don't want to learn and get better, then fuck off.
Yeah, nice. And how does the course kind of run? Is it more of like an open forum for everyone, or is it just like you're updating things constantly for people to learn across?
Bit of everything. It's community focused, so everybody in the group has their own say, and I include them in the progress and the development of the service as well. But yeah, it's pretty much pinned on the access to me, being able to get your questions answered. Most gyms across the world don't even do Q&A time at the end of class, so just having a bit of that to be able to accentuate your process instead of the traditional learning methods of just rock up and fucking train hard. You'd rock up to anything and work hard and you're still not going to get better at it.
Yeah,
you need to work intelligently, and you have to figure out a process that works for everyone, not just for one person. Because again, you could just be a freak athlete and it works for you because you're a freak athlete, but you know, not everyone's a freak athlete.
Yeah, true. You said US dollars. This has kind of sparked my interest. Do you have a lot of the US subscribers, or is it mostly
The majority?
Australian?
Yeah, the majority would be between Australia and US. I don't have the numbers on it, but specifically the reason for that was the majority of my audience on TikTok was from the US and the UK.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, mad, awesome. Do you have is it open to know how many members are inside of this thing at the moment? Like, is it not open to know?
We're nearing on like 900.
Yeah, mad, awesome. Yeah, sick. So it's a good community anyway.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It grows every day. People come in, people leave, but the people who stick around get fucking really good results out of it. We've had 16 promotions in about a year, which is great, which I don't take full responsibility for, but they love to try and give it to me. So we've had multiple people go from white to blue, blue to purple, purple to brown. We haven't had a brown to black yet. I might be the first one that's in the group that does it.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, everyone that comes in has a good experience and that uses the information and applies it correctly and uses it properly. They all get better. I get hundreds of messages a week saying, "I fucking use this," and this guy who's like looking at me all shocked and he didn't know how I did it. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's great.
Yeah, mad, awesome, dude. I really, really appreciate the time you've come over and given me. I would like to just finalize it by asking, like, why do you go on to people's podcasts when they ask to have you on?
I really like the sound of my own voice.
Good, me too, bro. Me too.
Nah, it's the same thing for me, right? Like I love teaching things and I have a unique perspective on the way that I look at things, and I think that can be helpful for people because I've worked very hard to develop that perspective. And you would garner an audience that doesn't necessarily ascribe themselves to the things that I look at on the surface, but then they can listen to something like this and go, oh, I like the way that guy thinks about shit. He's not just some fucking big ogre that does a weird sport that looks gay and wears pink shoes, whatever. But yeah, I think it's interesting to cross-pollinate because you will get multifactorial benefits for both audiences based on the information that shares. You always learn new things if you just continue to put yourself out there and open your ears for once. And then who knows what you might find. Who knows what you might find out.
Mad answer, dude. I appreciate it. I respect it. As I said, couldn't be more grateful for you coming and giving me this episode. It really was a gift to me. I really appreciate everyone who's made it to the end of the episode. Please stay tuned for next week. I've got more good episodes to come through 2024. And Josh, I believe until next time, I'd like to have you on the podcast again.
If I've got an open invite, I'm going to come sit here as many times as you want.
Yeah, gang. All right, easy. That's all right.
Shawty catch a vibe, yeah, I had to put her on. Bought a two-seater, yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty going high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stunt.